Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday everyone. I hope your guys' weekend is off to a great start. We're going to be doing live readings on the channel this evening. We're going to be doing astrology readings. So I'll give everybody a little bit of time to kind of jump in here and see that we're going live. But you guys can help me out by giving me a thumbs up and letting people know that we are streaming on YouTube. Drop me a comment and say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to hear from you guys. Happy full moon in Leo. Post full moon, it's been an intense one between yesterday and today. That energy is still rolling. So if you're wondering what is going on, we're still feeling it. The moon's in Leo currently still, at least into tomorrow. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a Western astrologer. I focus both on working with transits in astrology as well as using tarot to better understand what's going on out in the cosmos. We're here every Friday night doing live readings. We alternate between tarot and astrology. And this week we're going to be doing astrology readings. So if you have questions about a specific transit or a natal aspect in your chart, maybe you have a question about timing or you're interested in a synastry reading, we do all of that. To get a reading, you're going to have to scan this QR code right over here. It's going to take you to my PayPal, where it's very, very important that I get specific information from you for your reading so I can cast your chart live for everybody to see. I'll need your time, date, location of birth, including the month spelled out in the AM or the PM. And please put that in the memo box when you guys make your donation. There's like a little area where you can kind of type that in, put that in there, and any questions that you have specific to your chart of what you want me to take a look at. It's $55 for donation for a question in regards to your natal chart, or we're doing synastry for $70. So if you guys want to jump in, you can. I know we've got a bunch of level 3 people here, so what's up guys? I'll say hi to all of you. You guys may or may not know, but I'm a full-time content creator. So I actually have memberships on my channel where people can support my work. We're creating long format educational astrology and tarot content. So those of you guys who are level 3 members and you support my work, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Part of being a level 3 member is you can get a reading with me once a month and you can cash in on that any Friday that you want. And you can alternate between tarot or astrology, so you can take your pick. Let me say hi to everybody who has been here waiting. What's up, Amy? Hey, Heart Chakra, Cassie, Lana's Bananas, Aga, Sharon, Jen, Yolette's here. I saw your donation. Thank you. What's up, Jeffrey? Chat with Lorena, Rome, MV. And who else do we have here? CJ, Pam, Tonya. What's up, guys? It's nice to see all of you. Thank you guys for joining me. We always have a fun bunch. How's everybody's full moon doing? Davers is here too. What's up, Davers? He's in the chat. What's up, Astrid? Okay, so if you guys are new to this, basically I will take readings for so long. We'll probably leave the queue open for like another 20 minutes or so because we have a ton of people who are getting ready to get their reading. I appreciate your patience. We're going to be doing the readings in the order that we receive them. We'll be pulling up the charts live and taking a look at your questions along with your current astrology. What's up, Lisa? And don't forget to smack those like buttons. What's up, Janelle? I appreciate it, you guys. Thank you so much. All right, so this is who I've got so far. And I know throughout the evening, you'll hear a lot of people saying, did you get my payment? Did you get my payment? Yes, I got it. Don't worry. I'll give you guys the updates every so often for who I have. But let me give you guys a rolling list now. And we're going to start with the level 3 members. So Sharon, Jen, and Amy, you guys are level 3. If there's anybody else here who's level 3 that wants to get in on this, let me know. Outside of that, we have Rome, Angie, Christine, Yolette, Tanya, Sage Moon, Lana, Jeffrey, Amanda, and it looks like Alex snuck in there. Let me go ahead and add you really quick, Alex, so that way I have everybody so far. Anybody have a extra extraordinary full moon. It's wild, you guys. Like, it's square, what is it, a post-Pluto square Jupiter? So it feels big. All right. Let me add Alex. And then I will have everybody so far. So if you heard your name called, I have you, and I'll give you guys a heads up and let you know, I'll call a couple names at a time so you know if your reading is coming up. What's up, Frankie? Well, thank you so much. You picked up a love forecast. I'm excited to do that. I did a couple things special for February. The February horoscopes are out if you guys haven't already seen them. I'm offering $50 off Synastry readings this month if you book a Synastry reading for a relationship one-on-one on my website. And I'm also doing special love reports where I look at your current love cycles, like your Venus return, transits in your chart, progressions, and much more to let you know where and when love may strike. And I'm only offering so many of those, but there'll be audio reports that I email you guys to let you know what I think about your relationships and what's going on there. All right. So let me get this rolling and we will just get started, obviously, with my level 3 people. So Sharon, Jen, and Amy, you guys are on deck, and then we'll move on down the line from there. So let me pull those up here. Sharon. All right, so we've got Sharon here. Yeah, I think I have you too, Aga. I'm pretty sure I have you as well. What's up, Janelle? Okay, so let's get going with Sharon's chart. And then let me pull your question because it looks like you popped in here. Sharon says, I like to use my monthly reading. What's something house transit that I should watch out for? So I've got you here, 10/28/77. Sharon is a Taurus rising and Scorpio sun, moon in Taurus. Well, how much time do you have? Just kidding. You definitely have some things that pique my interest, just taking a look at a couple hot spots in your chart. In terms of like quicker moving transits, we're going to be seeing that Venus is going to be changing signs pretty soon here. So be mindful of that. We're going to see at some point over the next month, your chart ruler is on the move, and that's important because Venus rules Taurus rising charts. But you're going to feel this energy early because there's like this building stellium of planets that are coming into your 10th house, which deals with your career and your reputation. So right now the sun is sitting in Aquarius. Pluto has recently moved into Aquarius, and you're going to see over the next month, Mercury, Mars, and Venus are going to be hanging out at the top of your chart. Now, this is really important for Taurus risings because it talks about kind of like a new beginning when it comes to your professional life. 10th house is your reputation and public visibility. It can also be about your responsibilities in the world, your contribution maybe to the collective. And the 10th house can be about relationships also with like bosses and superiors. So I notice here that you have a ton of planets in Scorpio in your 7th house, which represents transformation within relationships in this lifetime. You also have a Jupiter transit in your 1st house, expanding who you are as a person, and likely the Jupiter transit is really having you focus on your health, your body, and your relationship to yourself. So as these planets over the next month come into Aquarius, you're going to notice that it's creating a pretty significant T-square, okay, to your ascendant and your descendant. And if you want to get technical, it's actually going to be creating a grand fixed square, okay, in your astrology. So all these planets moving through your career sector is triggering Jupiter and Chiron, asking you to kind of heal something within yourself, be optimistic, and really focus on faith. It's also squaring your 7th house of relationships. So it's bringing up some kind of tension and pressure where there's things that are unfolding and changing within relationships. Likely it could be about your relationship status changing, your career status changing. And the truth is like, hold on to your shorts because the next month is going to be very action-packed. Now, I also notice in the background, you have transiting Pluto coming into an opposition with Mars. So this might indicate that you're making some big changes to what's going on with your career and the impact that it's having to the relationship, to your home, your private life, or your family. It can mean that work is taking precedent and it's creating some pressure about, where you're taking action at home, or challenges on the home front or with family members, roommates, partners. And you'll be in that Pluto-Mars opposition for on and off for the next year. So that seems to be really significant for me, especially because you seem to have Chiron, Mars, and the Sun all within the first 5 degrees of the fixed signs. So as Pluto kind of comes in here, he is dancing with all these planets, creating a square in all of 2024 going into 2025. Generally, Pluto transits bring an ending of one thing and the beginning of another. So I'm wondering, what's the ending that's coming up for you? Are you making a big job change, and is that impacting your relationship to your home or your relationships? Are you going through a really significant shift in your one-on-one relationships right now? Is that creating some big changes in terms of your status? So I would be on the lookout when planets are kind of within 0 to about 7 degrees of the fixed signs. So Mercury and the Sun will kind of hover there at the beginning of February, but when your chart ruler Venus comes into conjunction with Pluto the second half of February from the 16th on, and it's enacting this square, for me, I think it's a lot of where you're taking, a much needed step forward when it comes to being an authority, right? And building or working with a team, working with friends and towards some kind of common goal maybe. It can mean that you're starting a new job, or that you're coming into a management role, or maybe you're recognizing that, something that you've been doing for a long time, it's either it's coming up for a change, or it's coming, time for you to really focus on getting, or gaining recognition for your hard work. So you're going to feel that intensity, like I said, the whole second half of February. Another transit that seems pretty prominent also is that Jupiter is on your ascendant and it's opposing Mercury and Uranus. So I do feel like maybe focusing more on the authority that you have over yourself and over your life direction or your career direction, and being optimistic and positive about it. You may feel like there's growing pains in relationships and it may not be sitting right with everybody, and it might create a little bit of some challenges in terms of how you communicate with other people. It's a pretty quick moving transit. That's going to be over in the next month or so. The key here is to keep the faith, stay optimistic, and be focusing on what you can control, not other people. And then kind of the cherry on top would definitely be what you're going to see over the spring, and that's going to be Uranus coming into a conjunction with your moon. Taurus moon is generally pretty cool, calm, collected, and stable. It's exalted in the sign of Taurus. But when it's in the first house, it can deal with fluctuations with the body or with the hormones or with the mood. So when Uranus hits your moon, you can feel more emotionally restless, or there can just be a wide range of emotions that you're kind of cycling through, and you can feel there's a sense of sometimes instability in how you're expressing your emotions or your communications, especially with either women or maybe with siblings or relatives, because the moon rules your third house. It may prompt you to also feel like you want to move around more or travel more, or that you need to kind of break away and you need to kind of go on short trips or vacations. And it looks like Jupiter and Uranus are going to hover around your moon for a little bit. Uranus will come up and hit your moon, and that will be in May. And I'm kind of feeling like this may prompt also moving or movement. That's the other way that I could see this. So I definitely would recommend learning about Uranus in a transit to your natal moon, because I think that's a big one. There's something brewing though in terms of, needing to make changes out in the world to kind of better give you the peace that you need, either at home or within relationships. So you'll notice this year that like February, May, July, and also October, these are going to be the months that you're going to kind of feel that pressure of when planets go through the fixed signs. And really for the next month, it's all work, reputation, career. April, May seems like it's going to be more of a focus on you and getting grounded in your body. You'll notice that the summertime is going to be more about what's going on with home and family. And then relationship focus is going to be more in the fall. So for this next year with these Pluto transits, it almost seems like there's like seasons, of your life, and you're going to have an area of focus during those times that I mentioned to kind of keep the balance. Otherwise, there's like a lot of tension that kind of comes up in the chart, right? And also, in closing, you're experiencing your reverse nodal return, and that happens every 18 years or so. So the North Node really talks about where we're going for some kind of collective change. And then also the South Node talks about what we're releasing and letting go of. So your North Node is in the 6th house, which can deal with health and organization, your support in relationships. It can be also about health and habits. I've seen a lot of people with like Libra placements here that are working through challenges with like flexibility or their backs. Specifically, the lower back is Libra, or things pertaining to healing relationships that feel out of balance. And the South Node is natally in the 12th house. So that means that you're here to learn about service and support of other people. But when you have your reverse nodal return, it's kind of like the past and the future meet in the present. So you're able to tap into your South Node, which means you'll know when to take space to kind of like realign and kind of be on your own. And the South Node transit is going through your 6th house, and that's going to be about unlocking the opportunity to heal, to support other people, to kind of get into balance and get into a routine. And it looks like as the South Node is swinging through here, it's touching on your Venus and your Pluto. So it's showing you like where there can be some unhealthy patterns in relationships or codependency. And so I feel like that may come up for you over the next couple of months, where you're learning to like work through some of this stuff. And really focusing more on like being okay, focusing on yourself and not feeling like all the attention has to be kind of pulled into relationships. It's almost like you're learning how to reestablish boundaries and redefine yourself and really focus on your own emotional needs. Where you see emotional tension, especially like, Taurus can be the throat, it can be the thyroid. You may also notice that this will come with like some fluctuations, maybe with your energy levels in the 1st house. That intensity that comes through that Uranus moon transit is trying to get you to purge out old ways of communicating and like releasing stress, and learning how to create more peaceful, harmonious, kind of environments for you. Anyway, I know that was probably throwing a lot at you, but you got a lot going on in this chart. So hopefully that's helpful for you. It looks like that really got kind of lit up with this full moon, because it's definitely squaring all of your stuff right now. So you might feel like all of these areas are due for a change. All right, so we have Jen. Make sure I have the right Jen here. Jen, let's see. Jen, I don't think I have your info. Can you, oh, there it is. Okay. Let me plug you in. There we go. All right. So Jen's May 7th, 96, 1:49 p.m. You'd like to claim your monthly reading. Well, what can I tell you? Did you have a specific question for me? And then after Jen, I'll have Amy, we have Rome, and then Angie. What's up, Bluebird? And we will call last call in about 5 minutes, guys. We have a ton of people tonight. Thank you, Sharon. I hope that's helpful. Lower back and hip issue. Libra is balance. It's about kind of stretching into that, finding the ability to find balance there. Sometimes with that Libra placement, the lower back issues can materialize because of like a feeling of not having like support also in relationships, especially with that Venus Pluto in the 4th. Lots of support for the kidneys is important there too. If you have like weird stuff that goes on like with your with your kidneys or like your urinary tract, like that can be an issue. I would also like really watch like sugar intake. That can all be helpful. What's up, Esco? Jen, are you here? If you don't have a specific area, I will just tell you what I see. Let me know. Oh, there she is. Jen would love to know she'll meet her husband this year. I'd like a love reading for the year. I'll be traveling the end of April and May, also working on promotion at work. So do you want me to look at work or love? Which one would you prefer? Let's look at, let's see. So you are 27 right now, and you're going to be 28 in May. What's up, MV? Well, let me say this. In my mind, with the birthday that you've got coming in May, it's going to activate your 5th house. Like, I'm not going to say you don't have to worry about work, but I will tell you that with Jupiter hitting your Mercury and then Jupiter going into your 10th house, like a lot of Virgo risings are going to have a new job this year, or they're going to have their choice of 2. So I wouldn't worry about that. Watch what's going on in June. So I'm using the annual perfection method. So your birthday in May is going to activate your 5th house annual perfection, which is about true love. Right? And you're going to have the ruler, which is Saturn, in your 7th house all year. So it's basically saying like, yes, a partnership can be found. It can be with somebody who's older or more mature. We have to look at the transits after your birthday, but something that really kind of piques my interest is that Saturn is going to come into contact with Juno. So it's very possible that you could find somebody who is like relationship material, or somebody who really, you know, wants to commit in that way. Your traditional ruler of your 7th house is Jupiter, and you've got Jupiter conjunct your moon. So I'm going to tell you how most likely you're going to meet this person. They say that wherever the 7th house ruler is where you will meet them. So if Jupiter rules your 7th and it's in your 5th, in Capricorn, it looks like you might meet them going out to a bar after work. I know it sounds crazy, but most likely that's what will happen. Or it could be like a younger person that you meet through work. That's another way of looking at it. The reason why I say you might do it after work is because Capricorn is work. You've got the moon conjunct Jupiter. So a group of friends in a bar, 5th house after work. That's kind of the vibe that I get. And also Jupiter is pretty close to Neptune. So that also is somewhere in like a close vicinity, right? Saturn conjunct Juno, I wouldn't worry about that. I feel like that's easier if you're single versus if you're married. I've noticed a lot of people when they have that transit when they're married, it's more challenging because there's a need to like recommit to that relationship. Even your Juno is at an 18, which is a Virgo degree. So it might be somebody that you meet through work, or it's going to be somebody who you get connected to who could be like a client if you have like a client-based business that you do. And the other thing to think about is like your Jupiter transits, right? So Jupiter for a woman can also be seen as like it's like a transit relating to husbands. And you're going to have Jupiter going into your 10th house. So I don't think maybe looking for like a new work opportunity or a raise or like a promotion or a new job is a bad thing, because that may also enhance the likelihood that you're going to meet someone. The 5th house is where we fall in love. The 7th house is where we commit. So what's working in your favor is that your 5th house ruler is going to be in your 7th house all year. The other way of looking at this also is that you're going to see Jupiter in the 10th square Saturn. So it almost seems as if like there's going to be an opportunity to get into a relationship with somebody and your public status can change, and it's going to be testing the way that you look at relationships and commitment. It can also represent that you want to be in a public relationship and like you're trying to push it along and like trying to get that person to like commit. But I think with Jupiter being in the same sign as your Venus, and I also think with Jupiter that is coming into a trine with your natal Jupiter, the transits are pretty positive. I would look to the eclipse that you're going to be having in the fall. Let's see, this one here. The lunar eclipse in Libra in your 7th house, so it's a completion. And it's ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the 10th, pretty close to your Venus. So the biggest theme is going to be not just about finding somebody and being in a relationship, but defining the relationship and if that relationship is like a public commitment. So it's like we are together, you know? I think the other challenge could be that you're trying to find a balance between, you know, staying really focused with what's going on with work and your career while simultaneously trying to tend to relationships or dating or finding someone. It looks like the most recent Mercury retrograde had you thinking about what it is that you're looking for in relationships. And you may find that when Venus goes into Pisces pretty soon, but that could also bring someone as well, because these eclipses that are going to be happening are going to be with a Venus-Saturn conjunction, the Libra eclipse, right? So like Venus conjuncting Saturn, usually that's a difficult transit, but Venus does well in the 7th house and Saturn was your 5th, so it's going to be easier for a Virgo rising chart. This is the end of March. And then you're also going to see Venus conjunct Juno around March 26th. And you'll see Venus conjunct your Mars March 2nd. That's also good for love. And when Venus comes into conjunction with Jupiter on May 23rd, that's also good for love. And then I would watch your Venus return. That can give you some indication of what is maybe revealing itself in terms of love and relationships. And it looks like it's going to be right after the Venus Gazimi on June 13th. But 5th house year will start, you know, obviously after your birthday this year. It'll go until May of 25. And you're going to want to pay attention to Saturn transit. So I'm going to double down on that lunar eclipse in the fall that's conjunct Saturn, because it can be talking about some kind of like relationship, you know, highlighting that's going on. And then when you turn 30, that'll be a big relationship year as well. But, you know, the truth is like all roads seem to kind of indicate this is a year that you will likely meet someone. Another technique, and this is, you know, different, is your progressed Venus. And that's definitely something I could do, not for a live reading, but I can look at the progressed Venus, and I can look at it in comparison to the natal chart. And we can see like what's going on with your progressed 7th house. And that can also give you an indication. But usually when I see transits, eclipses, and also stuff going on with the annual perfection, you'll see a lot of that mirrored through the progressions. Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you, Jen, and finding love. All right, so we've got Amy. Let's see. And we are calling last call now. Let's see, this was for Amy. Let's take a look. What did Amy say? I like to use my monthly reading. I'm a new member. Huzzah! What's best, most efficient to maximize my earnings as Jupiter, Uranus approaches conjunct my MC? 2nd house here, not waiting on love, but my person in another situation. So I'm focusing on my business. All right. So obviously, if you know that you're in a 2nd house year, this is a money year. So you're going to want to be watching what's going on with Mercury. Mercury recently went retrograde in your 5th. So yeah, you're, you know, focusing more on what's been going on with your personal business. You'll have another Mercury retrograde that's going to be in Aries. And that's going to be more in relation to, I think, maybe advertising, sales, promotion, And then you'll catch another Mercury retrograde that's going to be taking place, Virgo into Leo. And that'll also be about reassessing money and funds. But for the time being, asking about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, I'm going to look at it two ways. Obviously, it's on an angle, okay? So this is your MC. This is the tip-top part of your chart, which represents your public reputation, career, you know, what you're doing work-wise. 21 degrees is a degree of growth. So we see things suddenly rise, or you rise in ranks or rise in visibility or in growth in regards to your relationships and also visibility. I think of like Jupiter also being like creative energy. So if you have your own business, it's like suddenly you really start to see exponential growth. I don't think people realize how quick things will develop when Jupiter comes into conjunction with Uranus, because Uranus is sudden quickening. And obviously fixed signs don't like to change. So there's this feeling of like collectively, like where we've been holding back prior to that, you know, conjunction, finally it's like the floodgates open and like there's no holding back. So we're just going to see sudden exponential growth. I think it's wonderful for a Leo rising chart, honestly, not just because it's in the top part of your chart for career, but also because this is about, you know, complete and total self-expression, amazing opportunities for creativity, having a lot of fun, really being able to show the world what you've got. And also Taurus deals with money, so money doesn't hurt either. What I will tell you is the ruler of your 10th house is something else that I would be looking at. And so the irony that the South Node has been going through, your Venus, and all these planets are coming into your 10th house. So I'm wondering, like, you know, has it been that you've been changing the way that you look at money or think about money or talk about money? Is it possible that you have been updating, you know, a website or something relating to your online business or how people can kind of connect with you if you've been making changes in that capacity? Certainly from the Libra perspective, you know, you're going to hear for Libras that this conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus in April is going to be 8th house to your sun. So it's about having access to other people's money, suddenly inheriting something, you know, winning something, having some kind of growth that comes from a partnership. So it can indicate that you are partnering and working with some very like lucrative people, or that people are very generous with you, or that you're able to kind of charge more, or you're bringing in like a higher salary. So that conjunction, you know, as it's building, one thing that I would say for starters to really pay attention to is in February, when all these planets come into Aquarius, you're going to hear that it's like relationship oriented, and okay, maybe, but for you, it's in your 6th house. So this kind of resonates more with the Virgo rising horoscope, which is like, get organized, get active, come up with a schedule, you know, especially if you're trying to do like a content schedule, or if you need to hire people to help you with your business, if you need to bring in new skills or new technology to be able to grow, and pay attention to the growing pains, because it's going to oppose your 1st house and square your 10th house. So it does tell me that maybe there's something new that you can be learning about marketing your business, or ways that you can be able to kind of better grow what you're doing. And I think that it's uncomfortable for a Leo rising, but I think it'll be wonderful because it's going to help better prepare you for this growth period that'll come in April. Now, the other working period is going to be when all these planets go into Pisces. So you're going to see from like, you know, end of February all the way through the end of March, you're going to have all of these planets then come through your 7th house, which could be clients. This is also your marketplace. This will be sextiling Jupiter and Uranus. So we're going to start to see in March where a little dedication and commitment to our vision and holding that vision is going to make it possible for us to be able to bring in the resources that we need. So you'll see some support here. That'll go hand in hand also with some financial eclipses that you're going to have the end of March and the beginning of April, which is really kind of indicating that you're investing more in yourself, North Node and Aries in the 8th. Maybe there are some business loans or other things that you're investing into expanding your business or transforming yourself. And then finally, you're going to see the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction around the 20th of April. But that'll get reactivated when like Venus goes through there, Mercury goes through there. So will something happen that day? I'm not entirely sure if there will be something that day, but I will tell you that like when other planets come through those degrees, when the Sun and Venus show up mid-May, I think that's when you're really seeing that there is some kind of growth in your professional reputation. This is a big break for Leo risings. Huge. This is also really big for Libras because it's going to represent finally having the access to funds that they've been hoping to achieve. And it could really represent also like other business offers that can come your way if you're wanting to take like a salaried position or partnering with someone. I could see you definitely partnering with someone that could give you a lot of growth. And then finally, we will see Mercury and Mars come through there. So Mercury is also going to be, I think, pretty positive because that's your money planet. And Mercury is going to hit Jupiter around June 4th. And it looks like that's going to be right around a new moon. So holy mutable conjunctions. Look at all that stuff in Gemini. Really, trining all your Libra. And the theme actually for a lot of Libra is with this Jupiter and Gemini coming and, some of the Pluto trines is like a lot of Libras are going to start, teaching or publishing or traveling more. So there's going to be something like that that's going to kind of open up for you. The thing that I would really remind you is just, remember that the eclipses are still coming in Aries and Libra. So even though the South Node has already swung out of your third house and now it's in your second, and you're going to have the South Node Pluto transit still to deal with this year, really the theme here is like the willingness to kind of give up old income streams or old ways of spending or collecting or consuming. And the sixth house is going to be more about, the eighth house is going to be more about saving or maybe like investing, right? So yeah, really interesting, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. When that happens, it's supposed to be with Venus and Aries, I believe. So it's not just looking at these planets, it's also going to be what is Venus doing. And at the time of the conjunction, we're going to see Mercury going retrograde into conjunction with Venus, which means you're trying to kind of come up with a solution for a financial situation, or you're trying to pull money out of something, or you're trying to get extra resources. Maybe this is where you change some of your fees because Mercury represents your money. So you might kind of say, you know what, I'm upping my rates, or I'm charging more, or there's something that's shifting in terms of like your access to other people's resources, right? And that'll also be a part of the eclipse. So you should see that come through. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful for you, Amy. Good luck with continuing on with your business. I hope it's successful. Just as a reminder, we have already closed readings. So the queue is closed. So if you got in, lucky you. Let me see. So I will now move. Do we have any other level 3 people? I'm pretty sure we got everyone, but just want to make sure. Okay, looks like we're going to have Rom, Angie, Christine, and Yolette. You guys are all on deck. What's up, Rachel? All right, so we've got Rome. What's up? How are you, Jerome? Let me look at your question here. I have so much going on in my life right now, I can't make sense of it. Trying to figure out where to work, live staying in Texas to work construction, or going back to Cali to work construction, or doing something completely different. I feel lost. All my family members are fighting. I can't trust anyone. It seems like I got some information around my heart I'm trying to heal, so I don't know what next. Just tell me what's next for me. Appreciate you. Well, sending you lots of healing. I remember talking to you last year about when Saturn would go direct, and that while Saturn was in your 12th house, which is intercepted, so, Pisces transits can be challenging because you don't always see what's going to be coming in the 12th house, but especially when the 12th house is intercepted. Saturn is in opposition to your moon. So you're kind of feeling like, I'm between a rock and a hard place with my home or my living situation. North Node in the 4th house is always trying to find home anyway, but especially when, especially when the North Node is at a 10, it means it comes with a lot of challenges. And Saturn is now coming out of an opposition with your moon, so it should actually become a little bit easier to find a place to call home here pretty soon. But Saturn's going to keep moving, and it's going to come into an opposition with your Venus, which means you're going to find it harder to focus on relationships or relationships romantically or relationships with women, particularly like women in the family or women maybe that you work with, because it's going to be at a 10. And we are also seeing that there's just been a whole slew of planets that's been in Capricorn in opposition to your 10th house. So it's been more about what's going on with the career rather than focusing on, what's been going on with home. Sounds like you have like a number of different options. And the one thing I'll tell you is that because your North Node is in the 4th house, ruled by the moon, and the moon is in the 6th house, you're most likely to be living in a place that is going to be like, I'm not going to say the easiest, but like the healthiest place for you to be living, right, Virgo? And Moon and Venus are in conjunction. So it also means like receiving some kind of support from somebody who's saying, hey, you can live here or you can work here or stay with me. I'll help you get a job. It could be a friend. Doesn't have to be a man or a woman because, Virgo is kind of neutral in that department. A strong Saturn transit is likely going to materialize as giving you some kind of clarity about your career. And this weekend, actually, we're watching Mercury and Mars. Okay, it's happening right now. It's building. Mars rules your chart. Mercury traditionally rules work. Like you're kind of feeling like you're between a rock and a hard place because the next couple days, Mercury and Mars are squaring the North and the South Node. So it means that you're going more in the direction of where you're going to be the most independent. Yes, you may not necessarily be around relationships. You may not necessarily be around family. You're supposed to be going in a place that's going to allow you to have like a fresh start, which is Aries. And there's no real definitive place. Like your IC being at a 4 means that you could live close to home or family. But I feel like while Saturn's in opposition to your moon, you're likely to move and like live somewhere further away. And then what else? In terms of work, as you see planets coming into conjunction with Saturn, like likely you're going to find that work is actually stabilizing and it's a place where you can kind of like keep to yourself or you can be private. The dates that I would also watch are going to be like when Mars trines Uranus, because there could be like an offer that comes through. That's going to be on the 30th. So I don't think there's lack of potential work. I think it's just kind of like, where am I supposed to be? Because Saturn will oppose your Venus, you're going to be away, I think, from, female friends and maybe family intermittently, at least through the spring. And then there could be another change in your living situation down the road. I know there's going to be a triple conjunction between Mercury, Sun, and Saturn that's happening around February 27th. And I feel like that's really like solidifying, giving you a place to live, work, and getting settled round about the second half of February. So it might take a little bit longer. But that's likely going to happen as it's starting to oppose your Venus and your moon, and you're recognizing that being in a place that can be a little bit more private or like a little like secluded is actually a good thing for you, because it's going to give you the opportunity to stabilize and rest, because this will all trine your North Node. Sounds like you're really getting hit hard with the South Node transits. Part of the South Node going through Libra, for somebody who has a lot of Libra, I've spoken to a lot of people from like 1981, 1982, 83, and they're all kind of telling me like what's going on. Like I'm breaking away from relationships, from partners, from friends. Like I'm splitting up with business partners. Like that's the South Node in Libra swinging through all of your personal planets, where you're realizing that, yeah, relationships are great, but not if there's like a bunch of baggage there. And like something that actually, kind of holds you back. And what you're embracing with the North Node Chiron conjunction in your first is healing the self, prioritizing the self, putting yourself first. You got to be a place that's going to give you all the necessities, because Virgo needs to make sure it's close to a gym, or it has the ability to work out. It has adequate, like bathroom and kitchen facilities. in a place that's relatively close to work, or it could be connected to, staying with somebody or living with somebody who you might be working with. But I'm pleased to see these planets come into your 12th house and trine the North Node. Even though it may feel lonely in February, for me, it seems like it's going to be something that's going to give you more stability. And I have a hunch when planets start coming out of an opposition with your moon round about April, you might see some of the drama that's been, going on with family members start to kind of subside, and it might get a little bit easier. The other thing to take into consideration is that your sun is at a 22, and Saturn's going to start coming into an opposition with your sun this year. It'll go all the way to about, I think, 19 degrees. And the sun deals with, obviously, like your own business, whole sign 5th house. It also deals with happiness, creativity, joy. So you want to be mindful that if you are trying to launch your own thing, there is going to be this feeling of like having to really push hard and be consistent with it this year. And it may take some time to kind of fully build that out. And then the other thing that I'm thinking about is, Jupiter going into Gemini for an Aries chart. That's going to be moving into your 3rd house. So better stability in regards to, home and living. There might be a move that's getting you into a place where you're feeling even more comfortable. Could also be like new forms of transportation and stuff coming in May and June. You're going to hear for Virgos that this is about a second job appearing or some new kind of work. And I think that is possible, maybe, especially in your 3rd house. But if you're wanting to do more work that's going to be like construction or, physical labor, with Jupiter and Uranus coming into your 2nd house, I really feel like construction can be something that can pay very well. And it's going to be, trining your South Node. So it's helping you kind of tap into like good, like career karma. So it may be something that you do, until about May or June, and you've built out some more funds until you have a better understanding of, okay, where do I want to stay a little bit more long-term? Am I updating a vehicle? How am I getting around? And you might have a little bit more money to play with, to be honest with you. So much of the eclipses that are going on in the South Node transit for Virgos is about learning to let something go. And so what you're learning to let go, I think, is like, where relationships have been taking priority over your financial security or your stability. And you're learning to look at things and go like, it doesn't matter how much I really care about that person. Like, it's just too much for me to carry right now, or I need to be prioritizing, my own financial needs or my work. And so you're having to kind of shake some of these people out that, believe it or not, can be like really financially draining. So a transit that's a positive transit to your 2nd house ruler, which is Venus, will bring you money. And right now you're getting ready to see Jupiter trine your Venus. So I have a hunch here over the next month it will produce work. Likely, as weird as it sounds, there may be construction gigs and stuff that's coming up for you to be working at night, because the 12th house is at night. It's before the sun rises. This is the rising. So if you see that there's like gigs and things that you can be doing at nighttime, it might actually pay more money, and you might kind of go, you know what, that's a good way to get ahead. I could do something like that, and like at least I'm not dealing with like the hustle and bustle of being somewhere where there's a lot of people, and you can kind of get work done, at a pace that's a little bit more chill, and it's also allowing you to kind of have a better environment. And I think you'll see a number of things that will present themselves that can be like odd hours. So don't immediately dismiss that. I think it could actually be like a positive kind of like, change of pace. And I'm thinking about all these planets going through your 11th house, which is really trying to get you thinking, this month about what your goals are, what it is that you're hoping to accomplish, who your friends are, who you can be kind of associating with. Like, you may see like a whole new group or like a cast of characters kind of arrive in your life with these placements. They may be a little bit of like oddballs. But the sextile to your North Node makes me feel like it's going to be like kind of like meeting some kindred spirits and some other people who are kind of like you, who may be like lone rangers or a little bit more independent. And you may find that like you find a group of people that you feel like you fit right in with, loving all the trines to your 7th house too. So you don't have to be alone, right? I feel like it's going to be an opportunity for you to say, hey, like, you know, my goals can change, my friends can change. I'm experiencing relationships in different ways, and it's really kind of helping me feel better about making some decisions and kind of going my own way. Definitely watch for the eclipses that are coming in the spring. I think, you know, that lunar eclipse in Libra is going to be smack dab on your descendant. So it can be big decisions about relationships and partnerships. And Venus, the ruler, will be conjunct Saturn. So it might mean that you're having to make a difficult decision about finally cutting someone or something loose. Equally, it can mean that there is some kind of like soulmate activation going on, and like you're having dreams about somebody before you meet them, or somebody comes in who's like a foreigner, or you meet somebody in a strange or mysterious way. And then the second eclipse will be in Aries on your ascendant with the sun. And this is going to be about healing the self, and where you're needing to kind of take time to rest and recuperate. The ruler is Mars in the 12th house, so be mindful. This is a time you really want to take care of your health. Watch out for working with anything sharp or hot, because a lot of Aries risings are prone to having injuries with that conjunction to Saturn and Mars, which could land them in a hospital. Unfortunately, it could. And this eclipse looks like it's going to be right in opposition to Saturn, so it's almost as if like whatever happened with the first eclipse where you had to say no to someone or something, this is like where you're healing, you know, feeling bad about telling somebody, you know, no, or that you needed space, because it'll be right in opposition to your Saturn. So watch for some clearing out of like the relationship karma. I definitely think that's part of the plan. Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you, Rome. Oh, what's up, Rachel? I hope you like those. Did you get the transits, or yeah, you got the personalized one? I hope you like it. That's cool. You can put it right into your cell phone. Okay, so I've got, let's see, Aga, Christine, Yolette, and Tonya. You guys are all next. Let's see. What did I do with yours? I know I had you in here. Let's see, AGNIE. There we go. There you are. Aga. You got it, Rome. I know you will be able to pull through. You're going to get a lot of opportunity for rest here this next month, bud. Trust me, things are gonna calm down. You're gonna be glad that you have some alone time. All right, so I've got Aga here, December 19th, 71. She says, my current job situation, my current job is crazy. Starting search for a new one. Are the sailing winds good for me to change now? What's going on in my 10th and 6th house? This is for the full moon reading. I've got you. So why is your work stuff so crazy? Well, you're a Libra rising. And a couple things come to mind. For starters, Mercury has been retrograde really close to your moon, which is your 10th house ruler. And it also went retrograde back and forth over your sun. So it's been some like really annoying and like back and forth communication likely with people that you've been working with. And you're maybe kind of feeling like people are sending mixed signals and like you don't know which end is up. And then two, you also have Mars and Neptune in conjunction. So relationships with 7th house people. Particularly, it can feel like it's men, or it can be that you're realizing that there's like some hidden enemies at work and some people who like you're not getting on well with, and like they're very hard to deal with because they can be kind of swampy. Mars Neptune is like, okay, what's their angle? Like, what are they doing? And people that you can have a hard time trusting. And then Saturn also is getting ready to come into your seventh house, your sixth house. It won't be there still for another year. But in my mind, I feel like you're starting to realize and recognize with Neptune square your sun, there's just some people you can't work with, you can't talk to, and some people who might feel downright crazy at work, right? So all of those things kind of apply. What do I think is going on with your career? Well, I mean, one thing I'll tell you is with Jupiter in a trine to your moon right now, okay, that can very likely bring you a new job opportunity. So it can bring you a new partnership, somebody you can work with, seventh house. It's also good for romantic relationships. It looks like you're going to have Jupiter that's going to trine your moon right around early March, and it'll just be brief. And then Jupiter's going to go into your eighth house where you could make more money, honestly. The eighth house is about fluctuation with finances. And Jupiter is going to start then trining your Venus, and that's with Uranus, okay? And you are Venus. So yeah, I mean, look, I could definitely see that happening. I feel like usually endings of relationships or job relationships happen in the eighth house, in the sixth or the eighth house. So we've got sixth house energy going on with all these planets coming in the month of March. So it might take you about another like month or so to like really see this through. But I have a feeling when you have your eclipse in the seventh house with a Saturn-Mars conjunction, you're basically saying like, yeah, I quit. So that's probably coming in March going into April. My advice is, because you're looking for a new position, you want to be working with the Jupiter trine moon. Like the whole month of February is a really good time to look. Another option is you can wait until Saturn is sextiling your moon. That will also stabilize your career. And that's going to be happening for you also in March. Okay, so I usually look for like 3 aspects. So here's one, here's another one, and then we're going to see the eclipse that's squaring it by degree. One thing I feel inclined to tell you is that, the solar eclipse that you have coming in the seventh house can literally materialize as like going back and forth, like with the interview process and like getting to know a new employer and like working with new people. And then down the road, at the end of this year, you will also see a Mars transit in your 10th house, and Mars will go retrograde. So another time to kind of consider will basically be like early December through February of 2025. This can also indicate like another turning point for you professionally, or making some changes to like where you're working or how you're working. Just like as a fellow Libra rising, I don't work with crazy people unless you want to count myself. But Saturn in the sixth house is just like a lot of work. It's just like, it almost feels like it's never ending, and it's challenging to kind of stay on top of tasks, and you may feel like you're working with incompetent people. And so really the key here is about finding either a workspace, an office space, a business, a group of people that like is healthier to work around, or a healthier work environment. And really paying attention to the effects on your mental or your emotional health. And then I think about the retrograde that you're also going to have in your 10th house. And it's like, if these things aren't being remedied in like March and April, and let's say you go to another job with the same conditions, or you stay in your current position, that Mars retrograde is still really going to get your attention, because it's going to go over your south node. So it's going to represent cutting back or cutting something off simultaneously, while you also have a Mars retrograde. So it really wants to make sure that you're kind of getting into the full swing of, having a better work-life balance, and really having something that's going to be healthier for you in the long term. Having Venus as your ruler, and it's right on the IC, this is like the kind of chart that would do very well, like working from home or working remotely, or having some kind of like a hybrid setup, because like almost all of your personal planets, they all are beneath the horizon. So is it possible for you to do the kind of work that you're doing like behind the scenes at home or in a private space? Let me know. Really make the most of February and March if you want to get out there and you want to find something else. You literally could use the Mars-Saturn conjunction as being like, you know, now I'm working from home, or I'm taking a break from working. But if I were you, I would use it more to kind of go and set something else up that's new, personally. Hopefully that's helpful. I've got Christine, Yolette, Tanya, and then Sage Moon. All right, so we've got Christine. Oh, I take that back. This is Joy. So we're doing a synastry here for you, Joy. There we go. There we go. Okay. So Joy says, there we go. Okay, so it's synastry for you and Gary. I'm excited to hear what things look like forward for this 2024 and things that me and my husband need to be aware of or watch out for. Hoping 2024 will be a better one for us, because 2023 was a very challenging year for us. I appreciate it. You're the best. Well, thank you. So you're the Libra rising, Scorpio sun, Pisces moon. One thing I would say is the fact that Saturn's coming up on your moon, Joy. So Saturn getting ready to hit your moon is literally going to talk about having more support in managing things emotionally within work and schedule, emotional or mental health themes this year, and like sharing some of the grunt work when it comes to home business. So you might have a partner that's kind of taking on more for you. Things feel a little stressful because Uranus is in opposition to your sun, and so you're going to feel that a little bit this year. And that's just about changes that you're having with the relationship to a man, and also changes for your goals. And then you're going to see Jupiter's going to go into Gemini. So that's pretty positive for Gary's chart, who's also a Libra rising. And Jupiter going into the 8th house means new opportunities for community business, local business, online business, something involving vehicles, communications, documents. It can be about money gained. You just want to let him know to be like on top of his taxes big time this year, because Jupiter in the 8th house can bring higher taxes or some challenges in regards to tax-related matters. Jupiter is a positive planet, so I'm not saying this to scare you. But I could also see like selling things off and like dipping into investments and like taking money off the table from investments that are being made with the Jupiter transit. So that's positive. All Libra Aries placements are getting hit with the eclipses. So when that eclipse comes in at the end of March, it'll be in Libra, and it's going to be in his 12th house. So it might mean that he needs more rest and, kind of connecting to himself. Same for you. It'll be on your ascendant. And both of you guys have eclipses in the 7th house with Chiron, which is about healing matters relating to relationships and partnerships. Let's take a look at the composite, because really it sounds like it's more what's going to be impacting you guys this year. There we go. So you guys have a composite Libra rising, moon in Taurus. Jupiter's going to hit that moon. Are you guys talking about selling a house, buying property, renovating something? Do you anticipate one of you guys is going to be inheriting property? Or are you selling something off, like a business or like metals? I see that. Your composite Venus is in Aquarius, and there's a ton of planets that are about to go through Aquarius, so there's a huge focus on upgrades within the home throughout the next month and a half, especially in regards to being able to kind of like make aesthetic changes. But your Venus is at an 8, so I'm kind of wondering, like, who's potentially anticipating inheriting something, or are you guys transforming a property in some way? Are you dealing with an aging female relative? That kind of comes through the composite chart. And even in spite of that, you know, Jupiter on your moon remains optimistic. So that's going to be happening here as well. Oh, there she is. Can you tell us again, what is my moon and my husband's sign? Yeah, you're both Libra risings. I'll give you guys the sun, moon, and rising in a second. We're having major renovation. Yeah, okay. So most of the renovations is going to be like really picking up the next 2 months. And it looks like things should pretty much be complete by about May. And it looks like it's going to be, like it's going to look much nicer, basically. You're gonna get a lot of work done. It's probably going to be hard to focus. There's going to be a lot kind of going on in the home here over the next like 6 weeks. So be mindful of that. And there can just be also more focus going on like with your guys' families. Anyway. So your rising is Libra, your sun is Scorpio, your moon is Pisces. So I would go and learn about Saturn transit your moon in the 6th house. If you guys have pets, you need to be paying attention to the health of your pets with this transit, particularly dogs. That's the moon. And it's at a 19. So Saturn coming in conjunction with your moon tells me, like, you know, your partner is going to be saying, hey, you know, take a rest. I've got this. You know, let me help you with something. You know, let's hire somebody to help kind of take care of homework, or if we need to kind of run errands or have odds and ends, like he may be more willing to either hire somebody or help you with that if you have a lot on your plate. There's going to also be a focus on like taking better care of emotional health. And if your mom's around, you need to be paying attention to her health as well, because the moon can be the mothers in our life. I don't think that there's going to be anything negative that's going to happen with your health. Even though Saturn moon transits are difficult, it's trining your Venus. So if anything, it might mean that you're like, I'm not drinking, or I'm doing fasting, or I'm not eating meat. Like you're going to cut something out maybe of your diet or your routine. And it's definitely relating to something you're consuming, or, you know, it could be about screen time as well. And then for your partner, he's also a Libra rising, and he's a Gemini sun, and his moon is in Cancer. So, you know, I mean, you know, Jupiter's coming into his 8th house. It tells me that, yeah, there may be like more taxes, but that's because you guys are making more money, right? So Jupiter going into the 3rd house might give you some kind of solution in May to like a tax thing, or you guys might be able to write more off this year. Pay attention to extra expenses that come up on his end that might kind of happen out of the blue. It can be travel expenses, and that can be in July and August. I do see the possibility of you guys being able to travel somewhere together, and it looks like it would be like a nice little escape or a break that you might get here in August as well, especially with Mercury going retrograde in the 10th. So if you guys have the time to do that, I would do that, because that can be like a nice kind of like reprieve. Yeah, Saturn in the 6th house is fasting. So hitting your 19 moon means like you're trying to get your partner on with like either fasting or like sticking to like a limited diet. And you may benefit by bringing in like a lot more seafood, because that can be Pisces. It can also mean that you're like experimenting with doing like water fasts or like juicing. It means that you may also consider, what's the other thing that I was thinking of? Juicing, fasting, and yeah, eliminating certain diet, like certain foods from your diet. So yeah, going low carb for sure. But just having looked at the composite chart, in spite of some of the changes that are definitely coming on the home front, I can't think of a better transit in a composite chart than Jupiter moon. So you guys are going to be in this where you're optimistic over the next month about the changes. With Jupiter and Uranus on your south node, this does seem to indicate that there may be an increase in like home or property taxes, home expenses, or there could be some unexpected windfall that could be coming through an inheritance or some kind of some kind of property that's going to pop up. And that would be from about the end of April, I would say, through July with these transits for sure. And I like the Libra rising composite chart with Venus in the 4th. That's nice because Venus is in a trine to the ascendant. What you're going to be wanting to watch is Saturn going into the 6th house and just making sure you guys are on the same page about some of these health, changes. Watch the eclipse that's going to be coming in the fall because it'll be in opposition to all of your Virgo and Pisces stuff. So this also tells me that you guys need more time to like rest and recuperate or be reflecting on some of the health changes that you've made in September. Is there anything that I'm missing? And you guys will experience a Mars retrograde in your 10th house, which means both of you guys are going to be making some pretty significant changes to your professional life at the end of 2024. So that's a ways away, but like you're definitely going to see this year with Mars retrograde in your composite 10th house, trine the North Node, that there is some kind of change that you're going on with work-wise. And so you guys might sell a business or you might scale back on something to start something else. But yeah, health and business is okay. Just the months that are not very strong business-wise, I do think will be like December and January because a Mars retrograde is usually scaling back. Think about what happened in the end of, I think it was 2007 or 2008. There was a similar retrograde that happened those years. One was more in Leo, one was more in Cancer. I don't know if you guys were together then, but that particular retrograde seems like it's similar for both of you in terms of changing direction with either where or how you're working. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys and that this next year is a whole lot easier. All right, so I have Yolette. Let's see. Could have sworn I had you here, maybe not. You're welcome. Good luck. Let's see, I know I saved these charts. $813.84. $6:05 a.m. in Miami. All right, there we go. All right, so we have got Yolette asking questions about her and her partner. And this is Synastry relationship. So you're 81384, 6:05 a.m. in Miami. Leo rising, Sun in Leo, and you have Moon in Pisces. All right. And then your husband, we have here January 25th, 86, 12:53, and that was AM in East Orange. Are you here, Yolette? Let me know. There are some changes going on in this chart, girl. Looks like the last 2 years has been high adventure with this relationship. Uranus transits in the 7th house and the squares to Sun and Venus. Jupiter in the 7th house in his chart right now, just in terms of his transits, does seem like a partner is trying to enhance a relationship or trying to help them grow, like together. So this seems really significant, and he's kind of going through a period of growing pains because relationships are expanding. squaring his Aquarius planet. So it's trying to get him to reflect on the past or learn more about his upbringing or learning more about his behaviors and his tendencies. Oh man, I mean, Pluto's on his Mercury right now, so he's having to learn to communicate in a better way and in a way that is not so resistant to change. And the truth is that, he's got a ton of planets, Mercury, which is how he thinks and communicates, the sun, which is his actions and his joy, his creativity, his ego, and his Venus. They all square Pluto and the nodes. So he's very resistant to changing. And the first planet that's actually in his first house that's rising is Mars. So he's kind of like an archetype for Mars. So he can be kind of combative and very passionate and very fierce. So he's always got his armor on, or he's always like, kind of playing like defense. And so what's happening right now, because Pluto is his ruler and it's coming into contact with Mercury and his sun is in Venus, is he's having to learn how to communicate differently. He's having to move out of old patterns of being kind of like combative or hostile, because it's a significant, period for change the next couple of years. Otherwise, he could potentially lose his partner with Pluto hitting his sun and his Venus if he's not willing to communicate better and change. Okay, I'm not picking sides. It's just, this is one hell of a chart. And when I look at your transits, being a Leo rising, you recently have had a Venus retrograde over the summer in your first house, where you're focusing more on healing and the commitment to yourself. Saturn's been in opposition to your moon, and it's been opposition to your Venus, conjunct your moon. So there's been a lot of working your way through some relationship changes and like learning to work better on your emotional habits and having, boundaries maybe emotionally. And now Pluto is coming into your whole sign 7th. So relationships are definitely up for a big change. Uranus is also squaring your sun. So with Jupiter and Uranus squaring your sun coming into conjunction, this is huge status changes, huge relationship changes. Huge shifts in regards to, your career as well. And the truth is that over the next month or so, with a ton of planets going into your 7th house, it does indicate that partners are going to be either open to change or they're going to be combative. And so it can kind of be an intense time. So watch out for that. In terms of like the synastry, when I look at your chart being a Leo rising, he's got his Mars on your Mars, so that can be positive and also kind of sexy. He has got his Pluto on your Saturn, so he really brings up all of the deep-seated, triggered like family like issues. Usually Saturn in the 4th has issues with one of the parents of feeling like the black sheep of the family or feeling rejected, and you also have South Node Mars. So it looks like there's some hangups, and he kind of mirrors some of those themes where it's kind of showing you where history can repeat itself. You're very much Leo. He's very much Aquarius. Sometimes opposites attract. I see a lot of partners that have, opposite signs or signs that square each other because they kind of trigger each other's midpoints. So I really feel like looking at this, the truth is that you have attracted somebody who on one hand can mirror some things back to you, right? Your sun in the first house. So that can be seen as somebody who is like very self-focused, somebody who is, they light up a room when they walk in, but they can also have like these Aries qualities to them. And so, what you have with all these planets in Aquarius is like somebody who can kind of mirror that back to you. So you may find yourself kind of in conflict with him being like, you're doing this. And he's like, no, you're doing that. And like, you guys can be bouncing off of each other because of like unresolved issues. Generally, I like to see some Venus and Mars action. So you have Mars conjunct. So that's great for passion and intimacy. He does by sign have Venus in opposition to your sun and your ascendant, but Venus on the descendant is great. I say this all the time, but like Leo risings really bring in some like really like kind of wild relationships. And the reason being is because you guys have, Aquarius that is on the descendant ruled by Uranus, which means quirky, unconventional, like rebel type of people that sometimes you feel like are out of your control. I like his Jupiter in your 7th. I like Venus along the descendant. I do feel like, you having Venus and Mercury in Virgo, there is very like what you see is what you get. And like there is a sense of like showing through service, like your love and dedication to another person. And he has, Sun, Venus, and Aquarius, which can be a little frosty sometimes. It's not like the most warm and fuzzy. So when these planets are in opposition to your ascendant or to your sun, it doesn't have that very generous, warm, giving you the attention and the things which you sometimes desire. It's a lot of like, well, I'm here, aren't I? Especially as Venus in the 4th house, like I'm here. And that's how I, show love and I make sacrifices. And so that I think you guys speak a different language in regards to love because your Venuses quincunx each other. So, maybe a good idea to talk about your love languages. And you may find that by telling him, hey, I want more than you just being here. I want physical touch. I want, acts of service. And he may have a different, view of giving and receiving love as well. And it might be a way for you guys to be able to get clear about what your needs are in regards to a relationship. Once again, I'm not picking sides, but I will tell you that since 2020, it looks like this has been a lot. You had a lot of planets come through Aquarius and also Taurus, and Saturn was in opposition and it was making, squares and that was to your 4th and your 10th house. So there was a lot of relationship changes didn't fully happen because of, limitations with home or family or like work related matters. And so now here comes Pluto kind of coming into the same territory where Saturn has been. And you may feel like you're kind of like in a situation where you're at your wit's end with another person. I would be looking in April when the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction comes together, because I do feel like this can be about a big change to your status, and whether this is like work changes or this is, changes in regards to being like, oh, I was married, now we're separated, or, we were separated, now we're back together. Because Uranus is the planet of divorce. Now, not all the risings are going to get divorced. Some are suddenly getting married or launching businesses. But when I think about his astrology, like he's a handful with this chart, For the next year or two, Uranus is going to be in opposition to his Mars, which means that partners are going to start getting very restless and they're going to lose patience if he is being combative and he's like, being confrontational and he's like resisting, and if he's not able to keep the peace. So I think of that opposition factored in with Pluto conjunct his Mercury and his Sun. He may not be aware because there may be some things that are ingrained in him because he may have had a very difficult relationship with one of his parents where he's always had to learn to kind of like fight or argue or stand up for himself. He may not recognize that he approaches a lot of conversations in that way, and he doesn't know how to like diffuse the situation, right? So I wonder, can he start journaling? Can he start going for walks? These are 3rd house things, can he start some kind of talk therapy? Is it something you guys can do together? Because for the next few years, this is going to kind of be like happening, specifically Mercury and Pluto. And I do feel like this is about how he's better opening up and communicating and expressing his feelings. But you're going to get to about 2025, 2026, and it's going to hit his Sun and his Venus. And that will eventually get to a point where a woman who he lives with will be like, I'm done. I can't live here anymore. Or you'll eventually get to a point where, you'll start to see that, the relationship feels as like it's dying. If you guys can't find ways to renew it, right? So not everything is like definitively, endings, but I'll tell you, like when Pluto hits the ruler of the 7th house, the relationship can get to a point where it's so unhealthy, especially with Venus at a 6, that they're like, I'm out, So knowing that can be happening, if this were to be left unattended for another 2 or 3 years, you can get ahead of it now and say like, what's going on. You should be able to look at the relationship that he has either with one of his parents or with a sibling, and you should see that there's like always strife there, okay? And I don't know if he's become accustomed to like speaking to people that way. I know Cancer moon can be like really moody, but I think that this is more all of the planets in Aquarius square Pluto, and He's probably seen or experienced some really, harsh communication style growing up, and it's just become like normal for him. And Aquarius, they rebel against things, right? So all these planets here in the third house square the nodes means that he's, through his communication, always kind of like pushed people away. So maybe you see through that, and maybe you're like, okay, that's not who he is all the time. And you're recognizing that, but still, people born in, 86, 87, who have this conjunction between Saturn and Uranus, there's like this like tendency to be like really restricted, and then they blow up, and really restricted, and then they blow up. I've noticed this with that group. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful in giving you like some insight into both of your transits and how it's working with your guys' composite chart. And I would definitely recommend learning more about his transits, because he's going to be in those Pluto transits for a couple years. Good luck. So we've got Tonya, Sage, Moon, Lana, and Jeffrey. All right, Tonya's April 15th, 68. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. Tonya rambles on YouTube. All right, so general, what can I expect over the next month or two? I'm feeling very optimistic. My YouTube channel is chugging along and getting ready to open an Etsy to do one-on-one readings. RV life is great. Anything coming up that I should pay attention to? You're welcome, Yolette. Well, I like all of this stuff. I'm glad to hear RV life is going well. For me, I really think about the last month or so where there's been an opportunity to really reevaluate kind of getting things in order in terms of your own, personal development of your channel, because the fifth house is your stage. So while this Mercury retrograde was going on, it's a lot of like, okay, what am I creating? What does it look like? What am I putting out there? Getting everything ready. And also making sure that you have the space within your home, to create. So you've been kind of doing that. Well, I guess you've been on the road. So maybe you've had to kind of move some stuff around, maneuver some things, kind of set some stuff up so it's more conducive for work, because this represents the space in your home which you create. I also think about the fact that, now we're seeing all these planets that are going to get into the later degrees of Capricorn, and they're going to trine your first house. So it's going to give you the opportunity to like really make the magic happen and feel more so tuned and tapped into, what you're doing professionally. It does seem like February and March is about kind of getting into the swing of being on a schedule or creating a schedule or kind of carving out your days so that way you're ready to take clients and also know when you're making content. You'll be glad to get out of Saturn square your moon, because now you're going to feel like, okay, like all the hard work I've been doing emotionally and also within my home is now giving me the opportunity to be able to work with clients, because your seventh house is your marketplace. So to me, it really feels as if like all of this is leading up to February, where you can be like, okay, website's done, got a schedule, doing my YouTube, creating that time where I can see clients. So that way everything is kind of in its space. And this is a time where you're going to be really focused on this, because where Mercury goes is where you go. So Mercury, Saturn, and the Sun seem to kind of indicate, you're giving some of your clients feedback. You're working with people very much the end of February into March. So that's how it's kind of looking over the next 2 months. While we get into the month of February, we're going to start feeling the effects of the eclipses. So we're going to start feeling the eclipse that's coming in Libra, the lunar eclipse at the end of March. So you might notice this over the next couple of weeks, like, oh, there's some changes into how I'm making money, or, there's some nice payouts maybe that are potentially coming, or, there are some things that I'm decluttering and kind of getting rid of. And you'll feel that North Node eclipse start coming in, which will be right around the beginning of April. And this is important for you because the eclipses are definitely making a lot of aspects to your personal planets. So I don't know if you've looked at those eclipses, but the first one in Libra is at 5 degrees in your second house, which is, clearing, decluttering. And this is where you have Venus conjunct Saturn. So it also looks like there's like a new defined sense of, payment schedules or like what you're charging people. So maybe that's when you're like, feeling the most comfortable to, start charging full price for your readings, or maybe you have an updated like list of, what you're going to be charging people. And just, working a lot with other people is what seems like is coming from that eclipse. And then the second eclipse that you're going to have at the beginning of April, this one is going to be right at 19 degrees of Aries. So it's going to be on your North Node. And the other one was in opposition to your Venus. So it's bringing people in who have an interest in your services. So these are very financial eclipses. I think the eclipse in opposition to your Venus is just saying it's kind of like, showing people what you have to offer and luring them in. And then the solar eclipse on the North Node is a pretty big deal. That North Node solar eclipse means that you are setting seeds literally in regards to your future. This will get activated also because of a Mercury retrograde, which is important for you. And the ruler of this eclipse is Mars, and it'll be in the 7th house conjunct Saturn. So it's like, what? It's great if you're working in like the occult or metaphysical world, because that's the 8th house. So, making money that way is good. I do have a feeling this is going to be about you making sure you're charging your worth, and also navigating something about like taxes now that you're working for yourself, and maybe bringing in some kind of system or like way of being able to track maybe your expenses, or making sure that you're setting money aside for taxes, and like maybe having somebody who helps you prepare and get all of those things in order. So I would be mindful of that also with the eclipse that's coming at the beginning of April. You're going to find that, later in the summer, Jupiter going into your 10th house is really big for career. You might be juggling more than one thing. And it looks like Jupiter is going to trine Pluto in the 5th house. So this is like actually really wonderful for expansion in your career, having a changed schedule, feeling like you have more freedom. And I really get the impression that like March all the way through July, it could be quite busy. So I'm not going to say that you won't get a break, but, until all of these personal planets are, coming into Cancer and Leo, anticipate that it's just going to be like a nonstop thing. Like, I don't think there's going to be any shortage of potential clients. I think it's just going to be a matter of, are you taking on too much? Really pay attention with these transits in Aries. A lot of this is about doing the Chiron work. It's about purging and purification, psychic protection, healing, sexual healing, doing a lot of inner work and embracing change. And a lot of this might be also just like transformative, type stuff as well. So you're kind of embracing something about transformation, right? Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Let me know. Man, you got that eclipse with a retrograde near your sun. So remember, the 8th house themes are about, regeneration and transformation. I'm curious if the eclipse in the 8th house with Saturn in the 7th opens the door to clients overseas. I think that could very well happen. And it could also be a turning point where it's more than just your relationship that you're having with, clients. Like, it may present you with romantic opportunities as well. Although Saturn in opposition to Pluto and Uranus tells me that you're like, I want to have people at a safe distance. If they come in, they come in, but you're still kind of keeping a little bit of like a safe distance from some people in this next year. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Wish you lots of business success. All right, so let's see, who else do I have? Yeah, you're like, keep a safe distance from me. I have Sage Moon, Lana, Jeffrey, Amanda, Alex. You guys are all on deck. You are very welcome. All right, so we've got Sage Moon. There we go. How are you doing, my dear? let's look at your question here. Hey Candace, I want to get a reading for my niece. We would like to look at current transits and how they may be, hold on. We would like to look at current transits and how they might help or hinder her, but more importantly, what transits should she look out for during her Pluto in the first. Any herbal recommendations would be appreciated as well. I love my niece and looking out for her. She'll be listening in. FYI, we share the same birthday. Okay, different year. Okay, so let me pull this up because I thought it was you. Okay, so that's January 9th, 2007. And that was 7:58 a.m. Celebration, Florida. I could have sworn that's what it said, no? Celebration? Is that right? I am doing well. I am busy, obviously. Why am I not seeing celebration? Where is that? It's not coming up. Do you have any idea what that might be near? It's not picking up on my Kissimmee? Okay. There we go. January 7th, 2007. January 9th, 2007, 7:58 a.m. All right. So, it'd be helpful if I spelled niece correctly, huh? There we go. Okay. So, she wants to know about her Pluto transit in the first. Any herbal recommendations would be great. Oh boy. So Pluto's been right on her ascendant. All right. Well, she's kind of already been in it for the last year. So, you know, not much is going to change. One thing I would note, though, is that the Aquarius transit is going to be different because her first house is intercepted. So you're going to hear like, oh, you know, Capricorn rising, Pluto going into the second house, changes with money, resources. Sure, maybe. Okay. You know, maybe she's realizing that, you know, in order to be more independent or self-sufficient, she's becoming, you know, more responsible with money and what she's, you know, spending and consuming, and she's having to kind of work now for resources. But it's still in her first house, and it's going to be there for, you know, 20 plus years until it goes into Pisces. Pluto is getting closer and closer and closer to her Venus. And Venus is the planet that's rising on her ascendant natally, Pallas and Venus. So she may become very fixated on like women's rights movements and female empowerment. That's probably going to be something she's really passionate about. Pluto on the ascendant, you know, detox, you know, purification, clearing. These might be things that she's kind of dealing with. Expression also of like sexual energy. That might be something that she's, you know, kind of experiencing. I would say like yoga, tantra, kundalini stuff, that might be something that's really interesting to her because that's Pluto's connection, and Aquarius can talk about vibrations. So, you know, healing and transmuting issues with power struggles and things like that by listening to binaural beats or like vibrational or sound healing can be really helpful for her. In my mind, she's already kind of gone through like the dark night of the soul. You know, she's had Pluto that has already hit her natal sun and her Mercury. So now, you know, Pluto rising on her ascendant is like this massive change and transformation. I think of, you know, resveratrol for Pluto transits because it helps us purge and purify the cells. That's something I always recommend. Lots of water is really helpful, but now Pluto is moving into an air element. So it means that she's probably going to be learning more about the effects of like frequencies on her body and the effects maybe of gadgets and Wi-Fi and all of those things. So it might be beneficial to have something that is, shielding her from that. So she might learn more about like EMF shielding, shungite, and, darker crystals and stones might be really helpful for her to kind of combat some of those frequencies. Especially being a Capricorn rising, I think that's important. The Pluto transits kind of have you feel like you've gone to hell and back, but she's done with it exactly on her ascendant. She may notice the effects still of having like, fluctuations with her energy. I've heard a lot of people with Pluto and Capricorn say that they feel like they're cold all of the time, or they're feeling like they're seeing themselves age pretty rapidly. So it's less about her age, it's more just the transit, but this might be a time where she starts like anti-aging techniques. And I would say like Capricorn is like all about your skin, your teeth, and your nails, and Pluto can be decay. So if you have anything going on with your mouth, you might notice that you're more prone to decay. So like really taking care of your teeth is going to be more important. I would recommend any kind of light weightlifting or strength training that she can be doing now to kind of like offset, some of the feelings of aging setting in, although she's very young. Pluto will be getting close to her Venus, and Venus is the ruler of her 9th house. So she might be learning more about, lessons in love, learning also more about, financial cycles that are going on out in the world. Maybe she's going to have some big changes in terms of her personal style and self-expression. And it's also possible that that's going to be very much relating to things that she's learning about healing the body, because her Venus is at a 6 and she does have Venus conjunct Chiron. So people who have these placements sometimes associate love with pain. In the first house, there can be this feeling sometimes of like not being good enough, or feeling like rejected, or feeling different, especially in Aquarius. She might have a very unusual look. But with Venus conjunct Chiron and Neptune, it's something that she like learns to love about herself. And it's actually what sets her apart and makes her seen as somebody who is very different, and doesn't just look like anybody else. So she'll learn to kind of like love that, and it becomes something that's like actually really beautiful. But I think a lot of it's about, self-love, acceptance, and Aquarius deals with the nervous system. It also deals with the ankles. So these are two areas that she's really going to want to pay attention to with the Pluto transit. In terms of like herbs, my master Capricorn list, I think I posted it on one of my last videos. I can give it to you if you want to shoot me an email, but I have a whole bunch of like Saturn herbs that correlates with Capricorn as well as with Aquarius. I will say that a lot of people who have a lot of Saturn in their chart like this are more predisposed to like depression or lower energy levels, or feeling a little blue. So something that can be really helpful obviously is like getting sunlight, infrared saunas, taking your vitamin D3, and making sure that you're not deficient in iron is like really important with these placements. And, she does have Chiron and Neptune in the first house conjunct Venus. So I do feel like, does she come from a family background where one of her parents was absent, or one of the parents was suffering like mental, psychological, or like addiction issues? Usually women who have the sun in the 12th house, like they feel like there was like a dad or like a parent that wasn't like around, or was kind of like, separate from them, or they weren't really close to. And so sometimes Neptune Chiron in the first house is like, kind of dealing with the after effects of that. It can mean that they're combating in this lifetime, like trying to take better care of their mental health, or sometimes they also themselves have some kind of hangups with like addiction, or, Neptune can be medication. It can be, drugs. Oh, her dad's abroad. Okay. So, part of the way that I see this is about like learning to, learning not to look at it as that she was like left, right? Like, cause a lot of the placements in the first house are about being self-sufficient, and it's learning not to be like hyper independent, like learning to let other people in. A lot of this will come with time. I noticed that she has Saturn in the 7th house in opposition to Neptune. So there's like a lot of like caring for herself. And sometimes that's where she can kind of keep certain relationships at bay. But learning to, yeah, take care of herself, but like let love in as well. That seems to be important. And then for like the next 2 years, you know, Saturn's going to go further into Pisces in conjunct with Neptune, and it'll oppose the moon. So I could see some challenges relating to the mother. I would also say be really careful with what you're consuming. She needs high quality water. I would be putting a pinch of like mineral salt in your water also to be able to kind of better balance things out and get the minerals that she needs. But the opposition to the moon can also bring some question marks about how she's feeling, who she's relating to, and kind of questioning like where is home. And in this next year, Saturn's going to come into conjunction with Uranus and the North Node. She would be someone who would do very well if she had an interest in this, like working with like aromatherapy or like blending like oils or creating perfumes or creating like tonics or doing some kind of work with like herbal remedies. If any of these things interest her while Saturn is conjunct Uranus and on her North Node, it'd be a wonderful time for her to learn more about that stuff. Yeah, and she's got Mars, Pluto square her moon. So there can also be some like some hormonal stuff. She can have excess heat in the body and inflammation. Repressed anger and frustration and moods also can promote there being like inflammation and you know, issues with like her hormones or her digestion in this chart as well. So you want to watch for that. She can help you make tinctures for sure. Yeah, really interesting times ahead with Saturn coming up on her Uranus and her North Node. This would be the time she would be learning about astrology as well. People who have North Node conjunct Uranus in the 2nd house, they can make money off of astrology. They learn about investing with astrology. Yeah, it should be something that interests her because of the sextile to her Sun and her Mercury. She's very intuitive. She's very, very intuitive. The 28, 29 degrees of Capricorn are some of the most psychic signs or degrees. So yeah, she really will like astrology. They say some of the best astrologers have like Jupiter Uranus aspects or Jupiter North Node. She's got both. Jupiter squares it. She might resist a little bit, but that's the Capricorn Mercury, but she's extremely intuitive, and that could help enhance some of the things that she feels. It can give her some kind of guidelines for timing. Hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for sending her our way. I've got Lana, Jeffrey, Amanda, Alex. So let's see. Let's look at Lana. I think this is a Synastry. And then we've got the other person. So let's look at Lana's chart. Scorpio rising, Sun in Gemini, Moon in Leo. And this other person is Gemini rising, Sun in Cancer, Moon in Sag. Okay, got it. Lana's Bananas. That's one of my favorite screen names yet. I love that. All right, so let's see what Lana says. Okay, there we go. My name is Lana's Bananas. I want to do a Synastry. So we got June 11th, 86. And that was in Saudi Arabia. And then the other person is July 21st, 83 in Barcelona. We've been dating for 4 months, and he recently asked me for a break to reevaluate his commitment. Everything was going well, but he's really feeling the pressure. I was clear from the beginning my intentions is to get married, start a family. He's aligned with the family part, but 50-50 on marriage. Can do what he wants to be open. We're from different backgrounds and religions and cultures, and he'd have to convert and compromise a lot to make it work. This was 10 days ago, and there's no expected end date for the break. My question is there a time frame when to expect the outcome of the decision, or are there any signs, I'm going to assume, of where this is going? Okay, so let's look at their chart really quick. So Gemini rising, okay, so mutable. Cancer sun in the second, pretty solid. South node Neptune in the 7th, so that's the culprit. So a couple things. 7th house represents marriage. Here we have the South node Neptune, so it does kind of indicate, you know, in this lifetime, primary focus is on personal growth. Doesn't mean he can't be married, but the South node in his 7th means he's done that in the past. Now, the conjunction to Neptune means that, you know, he would marry potentially a foreigner or somebody who's kind of culturally different. The other thing to take into consideration is that Jupiter, Uranus, Moon, South Node, Neptune all kind of connect to his whole sign 7th house. So there's like a lot of breaks and patterns and inconsistencies with relationships, and maybe the way that he looks at marriage is a little different. His 7th house ruler is in the 6th, conjunct Uranus and the moon. So I think that there is fear of separation and loss of the physical home space or possessions if a relationship were to break. So there may be some concerns, or where he uproots his life and if the relationship doesn't work. Also, people born in 83 have a Pluto Saturn conjunction in Libra. So they're working through some kind of collective karma about, you know, lessons and breakdowns in relationships. So they kind of have some challenges in this department. This also squares his sun. So I'm going to tell you, like, the fact that he's open to having kids with his sun square Pluto and Saturn is crazy. I mean, like, that's a good thing. That means that he's evolved and he's realized that that's something he can do. Maybe in the past there's been some financial challenges that have held him back from doing that. Saturn right now is in an opposition to Venus, which means he's focusing on long-term goals with his career and whether or not he wants to separate with a woman, and if he can give them what they want. And as Saturn goes through Pisces for the next year or two, it's going to trine Saturn and Mars, so he's focusing on building his career. We're also going to see for the next 2 years, Saturn and Neptune is going to square the nodes and the South Node, so he still might question whether or not he wants to get married, and there's more of a focus on his career rather than what's going on with a marriage per se. I'm not going to say he couldn't do that, but, you know, while there are squares to Jupiter, like right now, Saturn square it, there's a delay with relationship commitment. Now, if we look at the charts together, your Sun and Chiron and Lilith sit on his ascendant, so you're a good match for him. I feel like you help him heal and like redirect where he's going. Lilith on the ascendant is hard to resist, and it's on his North Node, so there is a sense of being like, I want you, but your Uranus that's on his descendant. So I think I don't doubt that there's feelings there and there's a connection, but Lilith is usually about this really passionate, sexual, raw desire. And looks like your Venus is on his sun, so that's a good placement too. Your Saturn and your Juno, which is about commitment in marriage, is on Jupiter Uranus, so it means that you may have what it takes to make him realize, like, hey, he could make this happen. I honestly feel like, you know, looking at this, maybe taking a little bit of space from him is a good thing because it's going to make him realize what he could lose. North Node Juno connection, Jupiter square the 7th house, Sun Moon connection, South Node Pluto, there it is. So you guys are still kind of working out some kind of maybe past life karma. You know, usually South Node Pluto, it's hard to kind of like untangle yourself from this other person. And I do feel like in the past it was more like a love affair and it was kind of like casual, or if it was loose. And in this lifetime, the North Node is on Juno, which means it needs to be more about commitment. So you're kind of like, no, I'm not doing that, you know, this go round. Like, it's this or nothing. Interesting. Of course, you would be a Scorpio rising. You know, part of the challenge for you here, my dear, is the fact that Pluto is coming into your 4th house and you're really committed to this idea of creating a whole new foundation for your home. And because it's squaring Pluto and also the descendant, the question is, where does he live and where do you live? Because if you choose this path, your astrology seems to indicate that something would have to dramatically change on the home front. And whether that's somebody moving in with somebody or moving into another city, or getting married and, you know, having kids. I kind of feel inclined to tell you, like, this is going to be a work in progress the next couple of years because, you know, you are going to have Pluto in your 4th house changing home, squaring your Pluto and opposing your moon. Like, this is the kind of chart where somebody's like, I'm looking for a husband. I want to settle down. I want to be having kids in the next, like, you know, year or two. And I feel like that's what's going to happen. I feel like that's going to happen. You had an eclipse on your descendant actually in April of last year, and you're getting ready to have a reactivation of some of these placements. So I look at your astrology, him aside, and I go, yeah, it's kind of like now or never. There is this sense of, with Mars and Venus coming into conjunction with Pluto, like, okay, are we doing this or are we not? So mid-February seems to be a turning point when you have Mars and Pluto come into conjunction, square the moon in Taurus. So I'd look at the 13th and the 14th. I would also look at when Venus conjuncts Pluto. Is that a time where somebody gives you a definitive answer? The 16th. And then Mars and Venus are going to meet in the 4th house, which essentially means that if you guys are going to make this happen, there needs to be like a meeting of the minds, and you're going to have to decide, okay, you know, if we are doing this, I know you're on a break right now, or so you say. If you are doing this, then like you guys are going to get the show on the road. Now, it is possible when Jupiter comes in conjunction with Uranus in April that this could prompt, you know, talking about moving to be with somebody primarily because, you know, you want to be together and you want to start your life together. And I wouldn't let that go yet. I feel like he's got this energy about him with all that Sag that's like, you know, I want my freedom. And then when he realizes that you're like, no, then I'm actually really cutting this off, he's going to realize like, okay, I can't do that, you know? And I think you've been through enough over the last couple of years with your transits that you're like, I'm not playing around anymore. When Jupiter hits your sun, that's probably going to be a time also when you're potentially pregnant. So that could be August or September. And then we're also going to see a full moon in your 5th house, and that'll be in September. So September seems to be a time that seems really prominent. And then Jupiter's going to come back and it's going to hit your sun, and that's going to be right around spring of next year. So it's like, look, what you're looking for is going to happen. I do see you doing this, but it's kind of do or die time right now. And he has pretty much until about, I would say, mid-May to come back around. And if he doesn't, then you're going to find that around that time, you're going to end up meeting another person. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's probably what's going to happen. Let me look at the composite really quick. There we go. So it looks like there's been a little bit of back and forth since the summer. You had a Venus retrograde on your composite ascendant. And then one in your 5th house, a Mercury retrograde. So you guys have been kind of doing the do-si-do for a little while now. So here it is. Jupiter and Uranus are going to come onto your north node. So remember how I said about May? May is the time. Jupiter and Uranus will sit conjunct your north nodes, so you're radically redefining who you are in relationship to each other, where you're going. You will have a Venus-Mars conjunction at the end of April. And if you guys decide to make it work in May, likely that's what's going to happen. So that eclipse that you had last April was ultimately brought him in the fall. And that's going to keep getting, you know, reactivated in your astrology. Yeah, the problem with the Gemini ascendant, and especially in this next year, is like there's like a bit of like a runner because they're mutable signs and they like freedom. But I really feel like this could be a big turning point for you guys in May, where there could be like, hey, you know, we could do this. But you're probably going to have the conversation with him again. Like, are we doing this or not? And as Jupiter comes into his sign this year and it starts opposing planets in the 7th house, it's like, you know, you guys may go back and forth a little bit over the summer only to finally make a decision and be like, okay, are we moving? And well, his chart says that he's planning on moving, you know, at the end of August going into September. So you wouldn't go back and forth, I don't think, for very long. His astrology is like crazy. So just be advised, like his moon, Jupiter, Uranus, he jumps around a lot. I don't know if he changes jobs a lot or he moves a lot, but he kind of is very restless emotionally. And he's used to having relationships with people either at a distance or people who are culturally different, or, you know, like women who are, you know, like at a safe space. And what he's learning is that if he's going to be in a relationship this year, it's going to end up being with somebody who, you know, is going to be like, I don't want to do the back and forth. Like, let's just make it happen. But his astrology with your chart, he has all of the markers of somebody that you would end up with. You know, sometimes we attract what our chart says that we attract, and he's there, but you're going to keep finding yourself having to say to him, hey, you have to like let go of the past, because his Saturn and Pluto is on your South Node. It means you're like, I don't want to be hidden. I don't want something that's not, you know, that we're not committed. I don't want this to be behind the scenes. You know, we're committing to each other in a serious way, or like no dice, right? And you really help him like initiate this change with your sun on his North Node. But he's got so many planets in the placement that I like to see when it deals with commitment, but you have to keep reminding him to get out of his past habits. He cannot continue the same habits moving forward with you. And I would really lay down the law with this, because for the next 2 years, as Pluto squares your Pluto and opposes your moon, you don't want to be having this conversation again in 2 or 3 years when you have a kid. Because over the next year or two, stuff's going to change. Relationships are going to upgrade. You're going to find that you're probably going to change something about your living situation. And having a kid is going to massively impact, you know, what you're doing professionally. So you need to know that you're on board with somebody who's going to be a team player and like actually help you raise a kid. Watch for connection in mid-February. Give him till May. That's my hot take. Hopefully that's helpful for you. I've got Jeffrey, Amanda, and Alex. Sounds complicated. Yeah, it does, but a lot of it depends on you. A lot of it depends on you, because if you don't choose to remain open, you're going to just meet another person. Good luck. What's up, Jeffrey? Let me make this Placidus. There we go. How are you doing? Got a job offer for remote work, currently on a contract in Cheeseland. But it's fine, I can move on. The remote offer, I don't have a feeling. I don't have a feeling about, but I get to put my house up for sale, and my heart's been set on Eastern Tennessee for a while. Should I wait to jump ship or just take it and run? Good astrocartography aspects with Eastern Tennessee. Also a good central hub for my ties with East Coast. All right, so we've got you here. Thank you very much. I hope you're doing well. Well, I mean, I keep thinking about how, you know, Jupiter and Uranus are going to be meeting pretty much right on your IC. And that can be really good for like selling your home and then like moving to a new place. You know, part of the way that your astrology works, because you have this North Node Sun in opposition to Saturn, that the endings of jobs always provide some kind of like opportunity, right? And being more optimistic, Jupiter, about the change. And then it allows you to kind of like move, regroup, and get into a new space, right? Personally, I think that, you know, moving into the future, job endings are going to stem either with planets in your 12th house, or it's going to be when you have hard squares to your Saturn. Both of these things are coming. You know, you've had a Mercury retrograde that's been taking place in your 12th house, so you've been thinking about ending something or wrapping it up. Mercury and Mars are currently in conjunction. They're going to continue for the next couple of days. If this were me, I would say when Mars comes into conjunction with Pluto and the moon, so right around February 7th through the 14th, you might actually wrap something up and be like, okay, cool, we're done here. If not, then you're going to see this when Mars is coming into a square with your Saturn and Uranus. That'll be March 7th through the 17th. all roads lead to you like picking up and going somewhere new, because even that is really pushing forth this Jupiter Uranus, expanding the home, going somewhere else, being closer to nature, or being in a place where you feel like you have more of an opportunity to meet people and socialize. I don't know. I was in Memphis twice over the new year, and the space was really awesome. The whole area is really great. I liked it a lot. I think that, you have to take into consideration for the next few years, Uranus in opposition to Saturn still means that you may potentially be, living somewhere and having to travel for work, or going somewhere else outside of, where you've been working, going out and doing work and kind of going back and forth. So if you end up taking something, there is still a lot of either socializing or partying, or, feeling like you're setting up a home, or you're getting established and you're making friends, and still kind of getting pulled out a little bit for the next year. It might be quick trips though, because Saturn is at a 25, so it can be quickly kind of going in and out. But personally, I think the energy of all these planets going into Pisces in March, sextiling the 7th house, is like helping prepare you and get you into this space. Now, if you don't hit those timelines, Jupiter hitting your Mars can do this too, because it'll trine your ascendant and it's still in the 4th house. And that would indicate going back and forth between two places. So if you decide not to sell something or to buy something or get into something permanently, you're either going to go back and forth between two cities, or you're potentially going to consider like renting a place tentatively until you figure out where you want to land. And that would be in July. But what's working in your favor? Well, eclipses in your 2nd house that you're going to be having, North Node coming into conjunction with Venus, having more access to resources, Saturn and Neptune trining your Saturn. I mean, that's the beauty, is that for the next 2 years, through hard work, dedication, and also the willingness to really manage finances, I don't really see any breaks with work. If anything, Jupiter is going to keep providing you with opportunities for work. And I don't know if this is going to be also, in July and August, where your love life stuff is going to open up more. You're more open to kind of like dating, or a partnership comes in. This can be where you're really focusing on like hobbies and getting involved with your community, and how that's also kind of keeping you, close to home. But you're going to find with all of these major planets that's kind of below the horizon, Saturn, Neptune, the nodes, Uranus, Mars, Jupiter. I'm not going to say you're not going to go out into the world and do things. You have quite a bit of like a seesaw in this chart, where you've got the ability to go out into work and then come home. But the planets at the bottom part of the chart really make me feel like there's more focus on where am I living? What am I building? Where am I going to be for the next couple of years? How can I get better rooted? And I feel like that's going to take precedent over everything. So you're going to be basing like where you're working and how you're working more off of like the space that, you're kind of curating, or, where you're getting acclimated socially. And you're going to be less likely to say, I'm just going to kind of take jobs and float around. You're going to want to be grounded somewhere. Yeah, and like the back and forth between two places is not a bad idea. I could definitely see you saying, well, I'm going to do like 6 months in one city and see how it goes. And if I don't like it, then I'll go back. Or, I'm going to potentially get situated in one place, and then I'm going to, have like a vacation rental in another city. And when I'm not there, I'm going to rent it. Because you do have Mars at a 9. So it makes me feel like you could have a home that you use just to visit, or maybe you have relatives that go back and forth, or you have a shared space with like a family member. So that's possible as well. Thinking everything I've been thinking, hoping between VA and Florida until I can land in Tennessee, trying to lock it down considering the astrology through 2027. Yeah, I mean, I think that, call me a conspiracy theorist, but, the astrology in the end of 2024, when we see the eclipses in Pisces, is when I think we're going to start to realize that there is like some significant limitation, leading into 2025. So we're going to see that Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So it's a good idea maybe to get situated and maybe have like a backup plan, have like a plan B, where you're like, I can go between two places until I decide where I want to be, and likely being in a place where you feel like you're going to have more freedom. And regardless, you're going to have to be in a place where you're going to want to socialize as well. I think Uranus in opposition to Saturn might surprise you. You know, you might feel like you've always been showing up and you're more focusing on career and your responsibility and how you're kind of producing out in the world. And Uranus in the 4th house means you're rebelling against that. You know, you may not want to work as much. You may not want to be working in certain conditions or for certain people. You know, you're going to kind of resist being told what to do, and you're going to be kind of focusing on how to be, you know, living a life where you're more self-sufficient and like sustainable in how you're living too, with Uranus and Taurus, you know, in your 4th house. So there's going to be a huge interest in cooking and, you know, maybe agricultural stuff, or like what you're able to build or kind of do on your own. So you're not as reliant on having to feel like you're working the kind of like, you know, hours that you're used to working. So I would hope that you're going to be around community that's going to help nurture that. And I would also watch for opportunities to band together and maybe consider joint spaces or communal spaces or land that you could do with other people that could give you the freedom to, you know, go back and forth, right? So maybe learn about Uranus in opposition to Saturn, but I could definitely see like a side gig emerging that would also give you reason to feel like you're scaling back from having to work so, you know, limitedly. Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you, giving you some insight. Thanks for popping in. We've got Amanda. And then after Amanda, I have Alex, Stephanie, and MSBG. Let's see, what did Amanda say? Yes, we do. Amanda says, I like a transit reading. I'm January 19th, 88, 12:28 p.m. I now live in Charlotte. Hoping to wrap up a legal issue in regards to child custody modification, and it's been going on forever, and starting to build an astrology app with a business partner and friend. Okay. Well, the legal matters has been trying to get wrapped up through the Mercury retrograde in your 9th. Usually completion of legal matters we might see in the 6th in terms of like, you know, settling debts and things owed to you, especially because Mercury's been retrograde in the 8th. So it looks like you've been trying to kind of bring this, you know, to a close, and you've been trying to work through the money owed, and it's been kind of agitating and annoying. Jupiter rules your 8th house of money owed, and you're going to see transits on your natal Jupiter, including you're going to see an eclipse there. So you might hear that something is getting ready to be rewarded to you that's owed to you. I would look for that right around the Aries eclipse. So that'll be in April, beginning of April on the 8th. You'll have a solar eclipse conjunct Jupiter, which is about money owed, ruled by Mars, and Mars is conjunct Saturn on your north node. So likely there could be some decision there. The Mercury retrograde could bring it through. Perhaps maybe, you know, Mercury also relating to possessions. That retrograde can also be getting an indication of what's coming in. You may want to allow up until about mid-May to start to receive those funds, but I do think likely that that will happen for sure. The other way of looking at this is, you know, children is the 5th house, ruled by the sun, and Pluto's been on your sun, so there's been a lot of intensity working and trying to provide, taking care of a kid. And now Pluto is moving away from your moon, so that seems to be positive. Under the realm of creating an app, you have been working hard with the Mercury retrograde in your 10th, trying to kind of reassess, organize, work out all the kinks, the scheduling, and the bugs in regards to getting ready to launch something. A very powerful time for Taurus rising. You're going to see a ton of planets over the next month that's going to come into your 10th house of career, where this is like where you're working as a team, and there's like a really powerful kind of coming together and seeing what you guys can both kind of add to this in order to be able to build something that can get some kind of recognition. You know, you're going to obviously know a little bit about astrology. So I would say this new moon that you're going to have in Aquarius is interesting because it's going to be at 20 degrees. It's going to square Uranus. So it's prompting you to really focus on making some changes within yourself, being flexible and adaptable. And when that new moon happens, you've got Venus and Mars on your midheaven, Mercury and Pluto in your 10th house. I could see some kind of breakthrough coming, especially when Jupiter goes into Gemini, because that's about money from other people. And when it goes into Gemini and it starts trining your Pluto transit up here. So end of May through June could definitely prompt something getting launched and making money that way. I mean, it's like, you know, Jupiter conjunct Uranus. Jupiter is wealth, Taurus is money, Uranus is astrology. So there's going to be a lot of money in astrology in the next year, especially for people who want to gamble, or, you know, people who are looking for financial planning or investment astrology, and like looking into those cycles. So that looks pretty prominent. So no doubt you could definitely make money doing that. Especially because we're going to see that Cazimi in the second house. So it's about a reveal. So likely you're revealing something about some new project. And it looks like that's coming through right around June the 4th. So I would say, yeah, February through June is like you're really working hard trying to get that in order, so that way you can produce something where you're going to be able to create some incentive for people to want to get in. The key here for the next month or so is just really working hard with a relationship, and both of you guys having to kind of really show up and sometimes find ways to meet in the middle to be able to complete this project. And likely with Saturn now in your 11th house, this is going to be about creating like a network of people, bringing people together, trying to get other people to kind of engage and see what you're doing. So I would really advise you to, you know, really focus on the social aspect of that and try to find ways where you can kind of be creating groups or promoting it and kind of collaborating with other people. And also getting a lot of feedback from others too, like sending it out maybe to other people, you know, to kind of test drive it and give you feedback before you guys get ready to potentially try to launch something closer to June. I know apps can take a lot of time and they can be super expensive as well. So, you know, if this were me, if I were to be launching something, I would be really eyeballing some of those transits in June. Jupiter's not strong in Gemini, but it does okay within the first decan. So as long as you're kind of pulling on the Jupiter-Mercury trine Pluto, oof, I'm really liking the transits in June for a potential launch date, if that works with your timing. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Amanda. Good luck with your app. That's some exciting stuff. Let's see. So I've got Alex. Okay, so let me pull Alex up. Make sure I got the right one here. 5/18/93, 2:57 a.m. So we've got feeling all over the place, trying to bust out of isolation and move on some big community projects the next few days that I've been dreaming up for a while, but wondering if I should wait a little bit more. Really overwhelmed with the amount of things on my plate, also housing insecure, and I've been thinking of making a big move to Brazil sometime in February, maybe as soon as 1st or mid of February. It's been a dream of mine forever, and I've been obsessed and unable to feel like I can commit to living anywhere in the US since being there last. If this is the move now, or should I perhaps wait? I feel like everyone around me is asking for commitment and for me to step up big time, and I want to as well. Sorry, your message cut off. Okay, so a couple things. One is you're talking about doing community work, but also wanting to move. So I'm wondering, like, where are you going? Are you going to stay or are you going to go? A lot of this is the fact that you're feeling the Saturn transit coming up. So if you notice, you've got the North Node in Sag in the 9th house of foreign lands, South Node in Gemini of your community, and Saturn right now is coming into the degrees on your ascendant, and it's going to square. So it's literally that turning point where you make a decision between a foreign place and your community. Okay, community work online. Okay, cool. I was going to say what? Also, like the North Node is on your moon, so you're feeling very inclined to go like, oh, I want to find a home and I want to find something that's mine. And oftentimes when eclipses happen on the moon and Saturn's on the ascendant, you're making a really big decision about where you're living. Here's the good news. Jupiter will be kind of in your 3rd/4th house like all year long. So you really have the opportunity, especially from like May on, to either go back and forth between 2 places or pick a place and then return back to another place. So the key here is if you want to do something, you know, temporary, where you're like, I'm going to give it, you know, 6 months, and then if it's not working, I'll come back. Like, you could, in my opinion, right? The other way of looking at this is, you know, Saturn is going to sit on the ascendant and it's going to square Jupiter the second half of 2024. So you're going to feel committed and limited or stuck in one place, and it's like keeping you from traveling. So likely the second half of 2024, that's when you have like picked a lane, you've decided where you want to stay. So I would give yourself the first half of the year to kind of feel it out and make decisions about which places you can go to and which place potentially, you know, feels like home for you. That's in my mind. Community work is going to continue to grow. You know, Jupiter is going to come into conjunction with your sun. You can get a lot of recognition for things you're writing, stuff you're talking about, things that you're sharing. And Uranus is going to come into conjunction with your sun as well. I think the biggest challenge here is if there's so much mental stress and you don't have an outlet for it, it can create a lot of friction. And also it can just make you feel like you're just all over the place, because the 3rd house is your mental capabilities. I would be going for walks and grounding my energy regularly and like taking time to unplug, especially from like electronics, because you have Sun conjunct Mercury. And this is right on Algol. So you can almost feel like you're like, I'm like possessed, you know, because of so much information I'm taking in, or there's so much stuff I have to be doing. And like the pressure, I think, is the fact that you were born with Saturn squares Sun and Mercury, right? So there is this sense of feeling limited or held back from things that's keeping you from being able to move forward. Saturn is actually your friend. He's here to kind of say, like, sometimes you need to take time to kind of slow down, isolate, review, revise, sleep on it before you make a move or before you make a decision. So much of your Saturn return was holding you back from moving, and it was getting you to think about, wait a second, you know, build out, you know, what you're going to be working on first, or you know, get things solid before you actually make the leap, right? Money should be good with eclipses in Aries and the North Node on your Venus and your Moon. I feel like a lot of this is about sharing some of your creativity with the world and like really owning it and putting your stamp on it and showing people that, you know, you can talk a lot about a specific topic that interests you. I don't know what that is. Sometimes, you know, Taurus can be about money. Sometimes it can be about food, resources, values, finances. So there's something here that you're going to be, you know, making money from or writing about or teaching or sharing, and lots of opportunity for community engagement. But it can't be at the cost of you feeling like you're never sleeping or you're never getting a break, because that Saturn will definitely make you feel that. I kind of look at this as like one step at a time, you know, like you're currently 30, you're going to be 31 this year, which means you're going to be moving into an 8th house year ruled by Venus. And this is all about, you know, change and learning to kind of let things go and focusing more on, you know, being self-reliant and not relying on relationships or partners or other people. So when your birthday hits in May, you're going to want to pay attention to Venus transits. So for example, you know, Venus is going to come into conjunction with Jupiter just shortly after your birthday. And when that happens, it looks like it could be a big break with either moving or writing or both. So that's coming the 3rd, 4th week of May. And then you're going to see Venus come into your 4th house with Jupiter. So it can be providing like a move closer to the end of May, beginning of June. So you're thinking you're moving, in the next month. I had to be honest with you. Like, this seems to suggest it'll take a little bit longer, but that this move is probably going to be going a little bit more smoothly. And 8th house years are all about change and transformation. So you're learning to adjust to like a new place, and also some language changes going on with Jupiter in Gemini. So you're going to want to really make sure that you feel comfortable with some of that shifts in regards to language. And then you'll find that there's opportunity for you to stabilize work stuff even some more in July. Some relationship stuff should pop up for you in September. And I do feel like there is going to be a sense of more career development for you in like December. But so much of your Saturn square Sun is learning not to kind of hold yourself back. Also cut it off, but main reason I'm holding back is waiting for a visa. Very complicated, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's coming. I mean, 3rd house is documents. So Jupiter and Uranus coming into conjunction in your 3rd house could quite literally be a document that's allowing you to travel. So I would almost look for that March, April, May. And then it's like, you're like, okay, I'm out of here, So to me, it seems like one thing at a time. Continue to do the community building stuff online and really stay focused about that, knowing that that's going to help kind of propel you forward and provide you with the resources necessary to really be able to kind of make this move that looks like it's going to be coming for you earlier in the summer. Hopefully that's helpful. Go and learn about Uranus transiting your sun. And I would also learn about Uranus squaring your Saturn. And I love that you're going to another country while you're doing that. That's like such a great way to use the square, is to go somewhere completely different. Is Stephanie here? I got your payment, but I don't know if I have your birth information. I'm trying to see if you're here. I have Stephanie and MSBG. Okay, so I saw you forgot to add your details, but if you're here, Stephanie, send it to me, please. And then I've got MSBG. October 23rd, 63. .830 Brunswick, New Jersey. Thank you, Stephanie. And then June 25th, 86. $11.58. What's your question, Stephanie? Okay, so I'm going to take Stephanie and then MSBG. So I've got both of you guys. You guys are the last ones. Okay. I can see you, don't worry. So June 25th, 86, Whittier. Oops, this should be Whittier. There we go. There we go. Whittier, California. And then I'll get you, Chase, in just a second. I'm curious what I should get into for meaningful work. Okay, that's a good question. Looks like this is something that you've been thinking about the last month or so. You've had a Mercury retrograde that started in Capricorn, right in conjunction to your Neptune. So there's a lot of like, what is my dream occupation? What could I be doing? And then Mercury went retrograde with Mars in your 10th house. So are you contemplating leaving a job, quitting a job? Is it about getting back to work? What's come up for you this last month in regards to that? Uranus conjunct your midheaven means that you may get restless in positions and you may feel like you're always constantly searching for the next thing. You can get bored kind of quickly. There can also be a sense of being like, okay, what can I do that's unconventional and different? Uranus rules Aquarius, which is the 12th house. So you may be attracted to like doing healing type work, psychic work, interest in the occult, astrology, metaphysics, especially with a Pisces moon. Doing some kind of work for nonprofit or higher education, completing a program, helping people in need in private spaces, or like doing some kind of work for like a social worker type of work, something like that can be coming up for you. But your midheaven's 21, so that's about growth. It can also be an education degree. The ruler is Jupiter, and you got Jupiter on the ascendant. So do you have a background in education, teaching, publishing? Has there been anything like that you've done in the past? I feel like any of these things are doable for you. The only catch is that, Jupiter is in its home sign in the first house, so you're very wise, but it's the squares to Uranus and Saturn that indicates that you may like literally go back and do another program, or you go through some kind of certification, something that you do that feels like, I guess I would say, more meaningful. And it's different than what you may have originally like gone to school or gotten a degree for. That's just my hot take. And it's interesting, you have Saturn conjunct Juno in opposition to Chiron. Not to be invasive, but like, have you gotten divorced and now are you like becoming more self-sufficient? So you're trying to figure out what kind of work you want to do, or is that the plan? Because there's something about separation from someone or something and then realizing what you want to do. I wanted to go for a PhD, but I've had cognitive issues from Lyme disease. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, you were sick. Okay. Maybe that was the separation. Because I see like a period of time of like being out of work and then going back into work. So it could be health stuff. If this were me, I really feel like, some people have it in their chart. Obviously, Saturn in the 9th house, these are people who value having a higher education and going back and getting it. But the squares to the moon might indicate it's something that you might do on your own time. It may not be like going to traditional, college. It might be something that you kind of do remotely. That's happening right now with the separation thing. Okay. So, personally, it's like once you've gone through the Saturn moon where you're dealing with the health challenges and then you've gone through the separation, now you're focusing more on like, okay, who am I? I'm redefining myself. And to me, it seems like that's the theme for the next year. Redefining yourself outside of, who you used to be with or maybe what you used to do work-wise. I also feel like, a transit involving the outer planets to your 10th house lord is going to give you something definitively. So you've got Jupiter at 22, which is about working hard and achieving your goals. You're going to see Saturn come into conjunction with that this year at 19. That'll be in June, and then it's going to retrograde back. So 2024 seems like the year that you would continue the process of learning something new or continuing education before you can make a change. And then likely what's going to happen is when the North Node is in conjunction to your Jupiter, you're starting like a brand new career. And that's going to be in June of 2025. Now, you can do something between now and then, but let's say you do decide to get, a certification or you go through a training course or something like that. North Node on Jupiter activating your 10th house. The nodes square Uranus, so it's something different. Jupiter's on your sun. I mean, the other thing is like this is doing intuitive work, doing healing work, working in property or real estate, property management. This is also having your own business because Jupiter is going to hit your sun exalted and be on the cusp of your 5th house. So doing some kind of work where you would do really well at interior design. believe it or not, especially with Venus in the 6th, you're very particular for how things look and how they're put together. Having a home healing studio. I could also see you getting involved in wanting to publish or teach things to younger people. I love that trine to your moon. I really feel like there could be some combination of like either intuitive work at home clearing, intuitive design, energy clearing of homes, feng shui. Has there been anything like that that's interest to you either? Thanks, Judy. This is an exciting time when Jupiter's on the North Node. Like this will be literally summer of next year where you're breaking into what you're supposed to be doing, but it's all going to come from the decisions you make in 2024. When Saturn sits on your ascendant, you're going to be like, what do I want to be known for? You know, like how am I redefining myself? And even though it feels uncomfortable because of the square to Saturn and Chiron, it's about holding yourself accountable all year and like really kind of staying focused and like really walking the line and holding yourself accountable for, no, I am going to do this thing. I am making this change. But if this were me, I would pull from the laundry list of the things that I gave you because I think you would do really well. And with a chart like this, like, you know, you, in theory, the next couple of years don't have to work out in the world. You can work from home, right? Even like the moon and Jupiter, you know, the sun and Jupiter coming together in this next year. And then you have Mercury at 29 degrees. So you're like really intuitive. I wonder if you can do some kind of intuitive home design, organizing, energy work. I feel like that would do really well. I think that would do very well with your transits the next couple of years. And it would allow you to build off of, you know, some of maybe the, education or some of the, schooling that you've already had. Maybe you're going to learn more about how to apply more things intuitively. Like Pisces isn't going to want to sit in a classroom and get a degree, you know, like that's not really how Pisces works. Pisces is like, yeah, if I feel intuitively drawn to it, or if I can exercise, my intuition, or if I can learn more about the subconscious. Another option is you can go in the direction of, like I said, doing healing work, doing some kind of intuitive healing work, or hypnotherapy might interest you as well, because you have Mercury at 29 degrees and Pluto's going into your whole sign 12th. So hypnotherapy might be another option that you might consider. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful in giving you some food for thought for this next year. Keep us updated. I'm excited to see what you do. And I have MSBG. I guess that was Chase. Looks like you are October 23rd, 63. I was supposed to move to Vegas this year, but interest rates. Trying again in 2026. Anywho, what's ahead for me? Pluto now in my guru house. You're welcome, Stephanie. Yeah, Pluto is now in your guru house. That's nice. And you're going to see over the next several years, Pluto coming into that trine with your ascendant. You're still in Pluto square the sun. So I really want to hammer that home. Because, for a Libra, it doesn't matter your ascendant. For a Libra, Pluto going in and out of Capricorn is about potential changes on the home front. Now that it's going into your 9th house, it's broadening your horizons, making it possible for you to move further away from home. You haven't moved, though, because Saturn has been in your 10th house, which represents some kind of challenge or limits, especially not wanting to kind of quit or leave a job or a position. Saturn's been in opposition to Uranus and Pluto. So in this next year, yeah, Saturn's still in opposition to these placements. You're not willing to make moves, and you may actually make some pretty significant shifts and find that like you make some headway with your career. So I don't know if you're intending on doing that, but Saturn in the 10th house, trining all of your 6th house is going to be pretty nice. So you'll continue to, see that growth happening. You gave me a reading last year about my triple decks. I let her go, now focusing on me living healthy and furnished in my home gym. I love it. I think that in my mind, especially this last month or so, the retrograde you've been having on your Cap moon in the 8th house is like, do I want to pay it? Do I not want to pay it? It's hard to predict what's going to happen with the markets, but I can tell you 2024 is going to be pretty wild financially with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And I also feel like for you, the reassessment of no, it's better to wait a little bit longer. Like you may see interest rates come down a little bit the next 2 years, but you should see the housing market at some point between now and 2027 substantially come down. So yeah, you might have, interest rates that are, 4, 5, 6%, but the housing prices should be substantially cheaper. So you might kind of feel like, okay, I can make the move. Large distance moves generally happen when we see, some kind of transit to our 3rd or our 4th house lord. So as Pluto is still squaring your sun for the next year, so it's limiting or delaying moving, you will have a Mercury retrograde that'll be here at the end of summer. So you might reassess what's going on in August and deciding whether or not it's time to start looking. I do feel like because you're going to have a Mars retrograde that's going to go in and out of, Leo, you may reassess at the end of this year. Okay, is it time to move? Is it not to move? We'll wait and see if the timing is right and if you have found the right place. Timing wise, you're fine though, in terms of like the living situation. With Pluto and Uranus being some heavy hitters, I would want Saturn to be out of an opposition with them anyway. So that really is taking you into 2025. And the other thing is like, South Node Moon in Capricorn, you'll have a tendency to like find older homes, or maybe you have an attraction to older homes or something that is going to be kind of like worked on or fixed up a little bit, because that's what the 8th house is. It is possible that when you see Mercury come through your 4th house in August, and also when you see planets go through your 8th house in January, these are 2 times where you're like really looking and seeing what you could potentially scoop up. And then Pluto will finally, move into Aquarius to stay for some time in February of next year. If this were me also, even going into 2025, like when the South Node goes into Virgo, you're going to continue to keep finding places. So keep your eyes open for the next 2 years. I'm not going to say there isn't a rush, because I'm sure you want to move, but you want to look for good timing between your 4th and your 8th house to make this happen. And so even Jupiter is going to trine your Pluto. You're going to look around and be like, should I start looking? But I think this year might be a little bit too early. Outside of that, I think there's a lot of opportunities for you to be building with what's going on with your career and reputation. You might have a year where you're putting in a lot of work and receiving more money and getting more like recognition for what you're doing. So it's going to give you the opportunity to kind of really focus on that. Are you planning on retiring once you move? Is that part of the goal? And the North Node's coming in conjunction with Jupiter in Aries, ruled by Mars, and you have Mars in the 6th. So there seems to be like a lot more focus on building friendships, socializing, networking. Are you a part of like a union by any chance? Like what kind of work do you do? Oh, you're retired. Okay, sorry. So then if you're retired, then the North Node conjunct Jupiter is going to be about joining groups, making friends, and like associating with people, and like, kind of socializing more. And if you're not working, then Saturn in the 10th house is going to be, what is my contribution to society? How am I giving back to others? What am I doing? If not, then this Saturn opposition to Uranus and Pluto will likely materialize as your relatives, What am I doing for family? And if you're not super close to family, you're going to be hearing with the opposition from family at a distance or family afar. What's going on with their home lives? What's going on with their needs? I would be really careful to running to somebody's aid and helping them. I feel like you're supposed to be maintaining a healthy balance and focusing more on, like getting established with other people. Like Aries in the North Node in the 11th house makes me feel like, maybe you find like an interest of yours or a hobby of yours, but you go and do it where other people are doing it. Like, I've seen people who are like, yeah, I'm like really into like health and fitness. And I'll be like, okay, so you work out? They're like, yeah, I work out alone. And I'll be like, okay, well, go and do a class at the gym, because fitness can be Aries. It can also mean that, you're really opening yourself up to like new clubs and groups of people that you're connecting with online. So it doesn't have to be personally, one-on-one, it can be collectively. And watch for when these eclipses start coming in Aries and Libra, because for Libra and Libra risings, I know you're a Libra sun, this is about clearing something out. So to me, it looks like it's about heart healing and getting ready to bring in new relationships with people who you're going to be, meeting in groups. It's not going to be people that you're meeting one-on-one. So you're going to start noticing that you're going to be wanting to go places where there's people who are kind of hanging out and there's like groups of people, versus feeling like you're just dating somebody kind of one-on-one, in private. Yeah, but here's the thing, right? So Jupiter is one of the most positive planets in all of astrology. So when you have the North Node activating your Jupiter in Aries, which does like to be alone, you're going to be going places where there's going to be other people who are also working out by themselves, they're training by themselves, they're doing something that's going to be more one-on-one. So you don't necessarily have to go and interact with people, you just have to be going places where there's more people around. And you'll start kind of like connecting and making friends with others. It's because you have the moon in the south node on your 8th house. You're like, nah, I'd rather hang out by myself. I don't want to deal with other people. But you'll find that you'll start getting invitations. So if you start going to some of these places, you'll get invitations from people and they'll be like, hey, why don't you join us? Or like, here's this thing we're doing on Thursday nights. And you'll be like, what? And the invitations will start coming. And it doesn't mean that you have to go, but it can be beneficial for you, because all the transits are trying to get you out into the world right now. And they're trying to get you to kind of interact with other people and get out of the house, because all the planets are at the top part of the skies, right? But yeah, in terms of moving, I know you're saying 2026, but I think it's going to be 2026 for other reasons. It's because most likely you're going to be feeling like you've got some other responsibility or commitment that you're doing, and you're not wanting to necessarily be home all of the time. So if you start noticing that you're like, yeah, I've been home for a while, it's time for me to get out and do something, listen to that call, go out and do some stuff out in the world. Even if the 10th house isn't working, it's something that you're feeling responsible for. And if you're resisting it, you got to be really careful, because these oppositions are going to pull you into, my parent needs me, or my sister's having an issue, or, so-and-so back home has got something going on, and then it's going to try to bring you back home. And you're going to have to come up with an excuse or a reason as to what you're doing out in the world that would help you stall or delay having to go back home. I'm sorry to hear your sister is sick. Yeah, I'm not surprised, because you have Uranus at an 8. So that can definitely deal with some people who are kind of having a difficult time on the home front that need some support. And obviously, yeah, siblings for you is going to be the moon, and you've had a retrograde over your moon here recently, where you've been kind of made aware over the last month or so where she's probably not doing so hot. Yeah, she'll get you out of the house, and that you're going to see so much more of that over the next couple of months. So if you're not finding something else to do to occupy your time, that's kind of more or less what's going to happen. And I guess one other thing I would say is that Saturn is going to square your ascendant and your descendant. So it's not just about feeling responsibility, because it's in the 10th house, but Saturn square your ascendant, we feel the aches and the pains of being older. Saturn square the descendant, we're a little bit more selective with who we spend time with and who we're around. And I'm telling you, I promise you, this eclipse that's coming in April, it's going to be in your 11th house, and it's going to be with Venus. So believe it or not, if there's any incentive here, this makes me feel like you'll be introduced to a group of people, and you might meet like a new woman, because Jupiter rules your 7th house. So you will be invited to some group get together, or there's a place where people are all hanging out. But that eclipse is conjunct your Jupiter, which rules relationships, and Venus is nearby. So the month of April is very likely to create an opportunity for a chance meeting, and it could be somebody who you really take an interest in. So I would just say keep your eyes out, especially Jupiter at a 12 is somebody who can be culturally different, from a different background. You'll notice her because she might have really pretty eyes, because 12 degrees is kind of like a Pisces degree. She could be like an artist or somebody who's into like photography or fashion. And look for like either red lipstick or red hair. Like they'll be wearing red of some kind. And that's how you'll be like, oh, I just like noticed that person, you know, or they have like a really like feisty personality. And it can be somebody who's also like a friend of a friend, or somebody who comes from, you know, some kind of, you know, group of friends that are kind of getting together. And Aries could be fitness related. It could be related to younger people. It could be people who are also like all maybe like self-employed individuals. People who are, yeah, more so kind of like individual based, like your ex. All of the people that you end up with, they have some kind of red. So I don't know if it's red hair or they wear red, like a red lip, but usually Jupiter and Aries, you'll attract those types of people. And even Jupiter in opposition to your Venus, you're going to bring somebody in who's going to have an interest in you, even if you're not sure about them. But hopefully that's helpful in giving you some insight. And to be honest with you, these transits are so much better if you're not working. So really, to me, it looks like you're just focusing on building community and getting out of the house. So hopefully you're able to do that over these next couple of months. Thanks for checking in and saying hello. You have to let me know who you end up meeting here in April. With that being said, I'm pretty sure I caught everybody. Let me just make sure here. We got everybody. So thank you guys for hanging out with me on Friday night. I appreciate it. I will be back here next week on Friday. We're going to be doing tarot readings at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Catch me on Sunday. We have astro weather coming up. I'm going to talk to you all about the month of February. And as a reminder, those February rising sign horoscopes are already out. And I'm also doing all kinds of specials on Synastry and love horoscope reports. If you guys check the links in my description below, you can head over to my website and see that I'm offering $50 off for Synastry. And I'm doing a $75 love report that can be emailed to you, where I take a look at your transits, your progressions, and let you know when love might hit. We've also got you covered with all kinds of 2024 astrology calendars, from personal astrology calendars to printed calendars. Check those out as well while you're there, and make sure you sign up for my newsletter so you can see when I've got new courses coming out later this spring. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it, and I will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.